My name is Emily, age 44, and I'm employed as a TV broadcaster. Alongside me is my husband Tom, also 44, who manages a photography studio. Our journey began in high school, where we became each other's first and only significant other. The path to marriage was natural, as if destiny had woven our lives together seamlessly. At 25, tragedy struck when I lost my parents in an accident. In the aftermath, Tom's unwavering support was a lifeline, solidifying his place as not just a husband but a familial anchor. Post-nuptials, Tom relocated to my childhood home, a sanctuary left behind by my parents, where I found solace in our shared space. Our union bore fruit with the arrival of our son, bringing immense joy into our lives. Tom proved to be the epitome of an egalitarian partner, seamlessly balancing household responsibilities and childcare, a testament to his commitment to our shared goals. Yet, amidst our bliss, a shadow loomed in the form of my mother-in-law Jen. She couldn't reconcile with the sight of Tom, a man, taking charge of domestic duties. Reflecting on an incident a decade past, when our son was just beginning elementary school, Jen's presence escalated. With the transition from nursery to elementary school came logistical challenges, prompting us to rely on her assistance in ferrying our son home. Her frequent visits coincided with her husband Steve's retirement, affording them both ample free time. Jen, a staunch traditionalist, had embraced the role of homemaker while Steve was less inclined towards household chores. Whenever Tom found himself in the kitchen, effortlessly whipping up meals, Jen's disapproval lingered audibly in muttered phrases like, "A man's place isn't in the kitchen," or nostalgic remarks about how their generation wouldn't conceive of such occurrences. Upon my initial visit to their home, Jen wasted no time in expressing her expectation for me to relinquish my career aspirations, firmly rooted in her belief that women should prioritize homemaking. My role as a glamorous broadcaster seemed to irk her, contrasting sharply with her worldview. Yet Tom, who had witnessed my passion for broadcasting since our high school days, remained steadfast in his support for my ambitions. Likewise, I championed his pursuit of photography, and our symbiotic collaboration felt organic and effortless. Navigating the challenges of nursery school proved to be a joint effort, but the transition to elementary school brought unexpected hurdles, particularly with after-school care proving less accommodating. This compelled us to lean on Jen's assistance more heavily. As she began to frequent our home, her critiques of household tasks became a common refrain. Despite Tom's nonchalant responses defending our division of labor, Jen persisted in voicing her disapproval, often behind my back. Yet, recognizing her invaluable help, I chose to endure her comments in silence, opting not to engage in confrontation. Despite her traditional values, Jen had a surprising affinity for modern conveniences. Proudly brandishing her smartphone, she boasted of being the sole owner among her peers, reveling in the ease of access it provided. "I'm ahead of the curve," she proclaimed, enthusiastically exploring the internet for various purposes. "Look at how simple it is to do things now," she remarked, advocating for the adoption of convenient tools. Embracing the digital age, she efficiently utilized online platforms for tasks like restaurant reservations and service bookings. However, Jen's embrace of modernity seemed selective when it came to our family's shopping habits. Disapproving of our reliance on a delivery service for weekly grocery orders, she voiced her dissent with comments like, "You should handle the shopping yourself," and lamented the perceived wastefulness of delivery fees. Yet, her tune changed upon discovering the option to order groceries online. Encouraging me to embrace this newfound convenience, she eagerly advocated for the abandonment of outdated paper forms, highlighting the benefits of digital shopping. During evenings when Jen lingered at our home while Tom and I prepared dinner, she often cited the need to return for Steve's meal, emphasizing his inability to dine alone. Steve's aversion to household tasks was evident, leaving Jen to shoulder the domestic burden. Curious about Tom's contrasting approach, I once questioned him about his cooperative attitude towards chores, given his upbringing. Tom's response shed light on his determination to avoid the same complaints his mother had voiced about his father's lack of involvement. It was a lesson learned through observation of negative patterns. Jen's frustration with her husband's reluctance to contribute to household chores was palpable, contrasting with her bemusement at her son's willingness to pitch in. Perplexed by her seemingly contradictory stance, I suspected that Jen found solace in airing grievances, prompting me to maintain a cautious distance. Little did I know at the time, Jen's mounting frustrations would eventually lead her to take drastic actions, such as selling our house without consent, revealing the depths of her desperation. That summer brought an exciting opportunity when my company extended an invitation for a 2-month business trip abroad to cover a sports broadcast at the World Championship. It was a rare chance that felt like the culmination of my hard work and dedication. Recognizing the significance of this opportunity, I turned to Tom for guidance. Amidst his own commitments, he expressed uncertainty about managing both work and caring for our son John. It was then that Jen, who had been quietly listening, stepped in with an offer to assist. Despite lingering reservations from past encounters, the absence of alternative options left me with little choice but to entrust John's care to Jen. While considering the option of having Tom and John stay with Tom's parents, we realized the logistical challenges of commuting to school from their location. Ultimately, we settled on the arrangement of Jen staying at our home during weekdays to provide care for John. With this plan in motion, I embarked on my business trip, fully immersing myself in the sportscasting work and achieving significant strides in my career. Exhausted and relieved to be back in the U.S., I trudged towards my home on a weekday afternoon, burdened by the weight of my suitcase. As I approached the entrance, I was met by Jen, who seemed oddly eager. Prepared to express my gratitude for her assistance during my absence, I was blindsided by her unexpected declaration. "This house sold for $300,000, so I'm taking the full amount." Stunned, I struggled to process her words. "Our house?" I questioned incredulously, hoping for some clarification. With a gleam in her eyes, Jen affirmed, "Yes, this house. Well, actually, we don't technically own it." Her sudden backtrack only added to my confusion, prompting me to question the authenticity of her claim. However, Jen dismissed my doubts with laughter, insisting on the validity of her statement and brandishing the registration certificate as evidence. As she stood there, arms crossed and seemingly victorious, I realized that reasoning with her would be futile. Deciding to change tactics, I attempted to redirect the conversation. "Let's set that aside for a moment. Why are you selling it?" I inquired, hoping for some semblance of explanation. With a nonchalant air, Jen declared, "What belongs to the wife belongs to the husband, and therefore to me. I'm using it to build a new house." Her rationale, though flawed, hinted at a deeper agenda, leaving me grappling with a sense of disbelief and betrayal. As Jen's words echoed in the air, her bloodshot eyes filled me with a creeping sense of unease. The notion of a new house, one that belonged to both my husband and me, suddenly seemed tainted with a sinister undertone. Her resolve was palpable as she outlined her intentions, driven by a misguided sense of obligation to shield Tom from household chores. "I've raised him not to engage in such tasks, and I won't allow him to do so in the future," she declared with unwavering conviction. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, it became clear that Jen's perception of Tom's role in our household had been distorted from the beginning. A simple act of solidarity, when Tom had insisted on sharing household responsibilities shortly after our marriage, had been misconstrued by Jen. In her eyes, Tom's willingness to contribute was a mere reflection of his residence in my house, rather than a genuine commitment to shared responsibilities. The concept of a working couple collaborating on household duties simply did not register in her worldview. Delving deeper into the situation, I discovered the underlying financial strain plaguing Jen and Steve following Steve's retirement. With his pension falling short, expectations and job opportunities scarce, they found themselves grappling with the daunting prospect of maintaining their rented apartment. It was this sense of desperation that drove them to resort to such unthinkable measures. "No, this house isn't mine, and Tom thinks it's normal to do housework," I asserted, attempting to counter Jen's accusations. Yet, before I could elaborate further, Jen dismissed my words as lies, adamantly refusing to entertain any alternative interpretation. Desperate for clarity amidst the chaos, I redirected the conversation towards practical details. "Where did you sell it?" I inquired, hoping to gain insight into the situation. Jen confirmed my suspicions, revealing that she had engaged an online evaluation real estate agent, AA Real Estate, to facilitate the sale. With minimal effort, the necessary documents were submitted, and the transaction proceeded seamlessly. "It's a convenient world, isn't it?" she remarked with a hint of satisfaction. As the details emerged, it became apparent that Jen had acted impulsively, swayed by the assurances of the real estate agent. The allure of a lucrative offer, coupled with the buyer's eagerness for a property in our area, had seemingly convinced her of the transaction's merits, selling a 20-year-old house for $300,000. "I found a good real estate, didn't I?" she boasted proudly, oblivious to the turmoil her actions had caused. As I delved into my investigation, I came across a website for the real estate company that appeared legitimate. Attempting to confirm the validity of the sale, I dialed their number, only to be met with silence on the other end. Seeking clarification from Jen regarding her involvement, I demanded to know if she had physically visited the real estate company's address. Her response was dismissive, claiming that such visits were unnecessary in today's digital age. Determined to uncover the truth, I issued a firm ultimatum: visit the address in person the following day, or our discussion would cease. To my astonishment, Jen's tearful call the next day confirmed my worst fears. The purported real estate company was nowhere to be found. In its place stood a derelict wooden structure devoid of life. Despite the gravity of the situation, I couldn't help but burst into laughter at Jen's folly. Upon her return, Jen confessed to her misguided actions. Fueled by a misplaced sense of opportunity upon discovering the house registration certificate in my name during my absence, she had enlisted the services of the real estate agent. Their shameless assurances, coupled with Jen's naivety, led her to believe that the sale was legitimate, even without actual ownership. In her eagerness to seize what she perceived as an opportunity, she had unwittingly fallen prey to deception, providing the agent with all the requested documents without hesitation. Upon discovering a potential buyer, the fraudulent real estate agents demanded a deposit, half of their commission fee, amounting to $4,800, equivalent to half of the $9,600 commission promised for the $300,000 sale. Concerned of the gravity of the situation, I promptly contacted the authorities to report the scam. 2 officers were dispatched to our home to investigate the matter further. To our dismay, the police officers revealed that such internet fraud, masquerading as legitimate real estate agents, had become increasingly prevalent. Their modus operandi involved offering free property valuations, soliciting official documents from unsuspecting victims, introducing a fictitious buyer, and then absconding with a hefty fee. It was a cunning scheme that preyed on the vulnerabilities of individuals seeking to sell their properties. With the proliferation of vacant houses and the ease of fabricating addresses for document delivery, such fraudulent activities had surged in recent times. The officers theorized that the fraudsters likely designated a postbox under a fictitious name to receive the documents. Trembling with apprehension, Jen cooperated with the police, providing them with vital information. However, their inquiry took a startling turn when the officer questioned Jen about the house deed. In a barely audible voice, she admitted, "No, it was the original." The revelation left the officer visibly astounded, underscoring the severity of the situation and the extent of Jen's unwitting participation in the scam. As the police officer turned to me for clarification, I calmly denied any involvement in requesting the deposit. "No, I didn't ask for that," I stated plainly. Despite Jen's visibly distressed state, the officer seemed to lean towards trusting my account over hers. "She says she didn't ask for it. Selling things on your own isn't advisable, madame." "This situation is outrageous," he admonished, casting a disapproving glance at Jen, who remained silent, her lip bitten in remorse. Turning his attention back to Jen, the officer probed further about the deed registration. "You sent a copy, right?" Her barely audible response, "No, it was the original," left the officer even more incredulous. His dismay evident, he exchanged a glance with me, silently acknowledging the gravity of the situation. Sensing the need for resolution, the officer inquired about filing a theft report. However, I declined, explaining that the document had no validity in the sale process. "Actually, this house has already been sold to someone else," I revealed, elaborating on the legal changes that rendered the deed registration obsolete in such transactions. While I cherished the deed as a memento of my parents' legacy, its practical significance had diminished over time. With this revelation, the reality of the situation began to sink in, leaving Jen with a heavy sense of regret. As the reality of the situation began to dawn on Jen, she realized her misunderstanding regarding the deed and its implications. In her mind, the presence of the deed signified ongoing ownership of the house. Unaware that its significance had diminished in the sale process orchestrated by the fraudsters, faced with embarrassment and frustration, she turned her gaze towards me with a hint of resentment, questioning why I hadn't sold the house myself. Her muttered words stung, insinuating that my career choices had led to our current predicament. Meeting her gaze with a calm resolve, I explained the true reason behind the sale: Tom's ambition to pursue his dream photography business. With insufficient funds to kickstart his venture, we had made the difficult decision to part with our cherished family home, selling it to an acquaintance and subsequently renting it back. As I recounted the series of events, Jen's demeanor shifted, her shoulders slumping in defeat. Her tearful outburst laid bare the deeper frustrations plaguing her own life, revealing the stark contrast between her own marital struggles and our united front. As she lamented her husband's perceived shortcomings, her grievances poured forth unabated, leaving the police officer at a loss for words as he struggled to navigate the emotional turmoil unfolding before him. Despite filing a fraud report, the perpetrators remained elusive, evading capture for over a decade, leaving little hope for the recovery of the lost funds. In the wake of the ordeal, Steve's trust in Jen waned, prompting him to assume full control over their finances. Stripped of any financial autonomy, Jen found herself relegated to seeking Steve's approval for even the most basic expenses, a restriction she found suffocating and frustrating. As she grappled with the consequences of her actions, Jen turned to Tham for solace, only to be met with a reminder of her own culpability. Bereft of disposable income, she sought employment through senior job listings, eventually finding fulfillment in teaching the elderly how to navigate modern technology. Despite her own struggles, Jen's empathetic approach endeared her to her students, earning her respect for her ability to relate to their challenges and patiently guide them through the intricacies of smartphone usage. Though her circumstances had shifted dramatically, Jen found solace in her newfound role, finding purpose in helping others navigate the digital age. Steve, driven perhaps by his pride, found senior roles unfulfilling and promptly resigned, leaving him without a source of income. Meanwhile, Jen's schedule has become increasingly hectic, often leaving him to tend to household chores as she attends to her commitments. Surprisingly, Steve has discovered a newfound passion for cooking and is honing his skills in the kitchen. The dynamics in Tom's parents' household have shifted dramatically, yet both individuals seem to have found a sense of satisfaction in their new roles. In my own journey, following a successful overseas business trip, I've ascended the career ladder and now serve as the anchor for the evening news. Tom's photography studio is thriving, and together, we've accumulated enough savings to contemplate repurchasing and renovating the family home. We remain grateful to our acquaintance who allowed us to retain ownership of the house despite the distressing ordeal we endured. Ultimately, the situation proved beneficial for Tom's parents. As our son nears adulthood at 17, I've imparted this tale to him as a lesson on the dangers of internet fraud. However, out of respect for his grandparents, I've chosen to keep the aspect of their attempt to sell our house a secret, preserving their dignity.
I never thought a casserole could ruin my life. But there I stood in the gleaming gymnasium of Oak Ridge Elementary, watching my sister-in-law Josephine hold up my Pyrex dish like it was radioactive waste. I'm Jayla, and 3 years ago, I became a widow at 31. My husband, Carson's death left me with a 6-year-old daughter, a mountain of questions, and a wealthy family that never wanted me in the first place. Oh, isn't this quaint? Josephine's voice carried across the annual fundraiser crowd. Jayla brought her famous tuna surprise. How resourceful. The way she said resourceful made it sound like a crime. I watched the familiar smirk spread across the faces of her country club friends. These women spent more on their monthly highlights than I made teaching art at the community centre. Mum, my daughter Presley tugged at my sleeve. Why is Aunt Josephine being mean about your casserole? She's not being mean, honey. I lied, squeezing her hand. She's just presenting it differently. Actually, Josephine continued, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the light, this reminds me of a funny story. Remember when Jayla brought this to Carson's campaign dinner? The caterer thought it was meant for the staff break room. Laughter rippled through the crowd. I felt Presley's grip tighten. That's not what happened, I muttered, but only Presley could hear me. The truth was, Carson had asked me to make that casserole. He loved it, called it his comfort food. Mum, can we go home? Presley whispered. A tear rolled down her cheek. That tear changed everything. Not yet, baby, I said, my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. The raffle's about to start. Melina, the PTA president, stepped up to the microphone, clearly trying to move past the awkward moment. Thank you, Josephine, for presenting the refreshments. Now, Let's begin our grand prize drawing. I reached into my purse and pulled out the single raffle ticket I'd bought. $20, a splurge on my budget, but Presley had begged me to try. The grand prize, Melina announced, is a luxury weekend at the Mountain Vista Resort, valued at $5,000, generously donated by the Dawson family. Josephine stood next to her husband Lionel, practically preening. She'd been bragging about this donation for weeks. And the winning number is... Melina paused for dramatic effect. 73994. My hand shook as I looked down at my crumpled ticket. The numbers matched. 7394, Melina repeated. Is the winner here? The gymnasium fell silent. Josephine's perfectly glossed lips curved into a satisfied smile until I raised my hand. That's my number, I said clearly. The silence deepened. Josephine's smile vanished. Well, she recovered quickly, isn't that lucky? I walked to the front, Presley trailing behind me. Every click of my Target clearance heels echoed on the polished floor. Congratulations, Melina handed me the envelope containing the resort voucher. Would you like to say a few words? I looked at my daughter's tear-stained face, then at Josephine's smug one. 3 years of snide comments, backhanded compliments, and social humiliation flashed through my mind. Actually, yes, I took the microphone. I'd like to donate this prize back to the school. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Josephine's perfectly plucked eyebrows shot up. But, specifically, I continued, I want it auctioned off again, with all proceeds going to the underfunded arts program. More gasps. The arts program was my passion, and the one thing Josephine's crowd consistently voted against funding. That's, Melina stammered, that's incredibly generous, Jayla. Well, I smiled, channeling Josephine's saccharine tone. I learned from the best about being resourceful. Applause broke out, tentative at first, then growing stronger. Presley beamed up at me, her tears forgotten. Even Lionel was clapping, though he stopped quickly when Josephine elbowed him. As I walked back to my seat, Carmen, my best friend since college, squeezed my arm. Girl, she whispered, that was savage. The auction resumed, but I barely heard it. I was watching Josephine's face turn various shades of red as the bidding for her donation climbed higher and higher. Later, as parents filed out to the parking lot, Josephine cornered me by my old Honda Civic. Cute stunt, she hissed, her designer perfume choking the air between us. A casserole girl playing philanthropist? Let's see how long that lasts. I buckled Presley into her car seat, then turned to face my sister-in-law. You know what's funny about casseroles, Josephine? They're best served hot. She blinked, uncertain. I smiled and got into my car, leaving her standing there in her $1,000 heels. Because what Josephine didn't know was that this wasn't the end. This was just the first serving. $5,500. The auctioneer's voice boomed through the gymnasium. Do I hear 6,000? I sat with Presley, watching my donated prize climb in value. Carmen squeezed my hand as another paddle shot up. 6,000 from Mrs. Thompson. Do I hear 6,500? Josephine stood at the back, arms crossed, her French manicure tapping against her sleeve. The donation she'd meant to lord over everyone was now completely out of her control. $7,000, a new voice called out. I turned to see Noel, a single dad I recognized from Presley's class, holding up his paddle. His daughter Emma sat beside him, grinning and bouncing in her seat. 7,000 going once. Josephine whispered something to Lionel, who reluctantly raised his paddle. 7,500. 8,000, Noel counted immediately. The room crackled with tension. I felt Presley grip my arm. Mum, is Mr. Noel helping us? I think he is, baby. 8,000 going once. Going twice. Josephine's face had turned an interesting shade of purple. She grabbed Lionel's paddle, but he pulled it away, shaking his head. Sold to Mr. Sanders for $8,000. The gymnasium erupted in applause. Melina rushed to the microphone, practically glowing. This is unprecedented. The arts program budget has just doubled. I watched Noel make his way to the front to handle the payment details. As he passed our row, he winked at Presley. Emma's been wanting art classes. Seems like a good investment. Thank you, I mouthed, feeling my eyes water. Carmen nudged me. Girl, you just turned Josephine's power play into the biggest arts donation in school history. Look at her face. I did look. Josephine was having what appeared to be a very intense discussion with Lionel near the exit doors. Her voice carried just enough for nearby parents to hear. You let him outbid us? Do you have any idea how this looks? It looks like the arts program got funded, Lionel replied, louder than necessary. Several parents nodded approvingly. Melina approached my seat, beaming. Jayla, would you mind saying a few words about the arts program? The local paper is here. Sure. I hadn't expected this part. Standing at the microphone, I saw Presley's proud face in the crowd. Art saved my life after my husband died, I began simply. It gave my daughter a voice when words weren't enough. Every child deserves that chance, regardless of their circumstances. More applause. A camera flashed. And I'm so grateful to everyone who bid tonight, I continued, especially Mr. Sanders, for his incredible generosity. This shows what our community can do when we work together. I caught Josephine's eye as I stepped down. She was seething, but beneath the anger, I saw something else. Fear. For the first time, she wasn't controlling the narrative. Parents crowded around me afterward, asking about art classes and volunteering opportunities. Even Lionel approached, though he kept glancing nervously at his wife. That was impressive, he said quietly. Carson would have been proud. Before I could respond, Josephine materialized beside him. Time to go, dear. We have that other engagement. Of course we do, he muttered, but followed her out. Carmen helped me gather our things as the crowd thinned. You know she's going to retaliate, right? Let her try. I watched Presley chatting excitedly with Emma about art classes. She can't touch us anymore. We were almost to my car when Josephine's voice cut through the parking lot darkness. Enjoying your moment in the spotlight. I turned slowly. She stood under a streetlight, looking like every villain in every teen movie ever made. Actually, yes, I replied. The arts program needed this. Oh, please. She stepped closer. This little Robin Hood act? It won't last. You're still the girl who married up and couldn't handle it. Still, the widow living off my family's charity. Is that what you tell yourself? I kept my voice level. That I'm living off your charity? Interesting. We should discuss that sometime. Maybe over coffee? Something flickered in her eyes. Uncertainty. Maybe even fear again. She recovered quickly. Don't get comfortable, Jayla. You're not one of us. You never will be. You're right, I said, opening my car door. I'm not one of you. I'm better. Her laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. Better? You and your little casserole? Your bargain bin clothes? Your community centre job? No, I smiled, thinking of the offshore account information Noel had mentioned finding. Better, because I know exactly who I am. Do you? I left her standing there, her designer heels sinking slightly into the asphalt. In my rearview mirror, I watched her pull out her phone, probably calling her flying monkeys to report this latest development. Let her. The game was changing, and for once I had all the right pieces. Mom? Presley yawned from the back seat. Are we really getting art classes now? Yes, baby, we really are. And that was just the beginning. Local art teacher sparks community change, Carmen read from her phone screen, sprawled across my living room couch. The annual Oak Ridge Elementary fundraiser took an unexpected turn when widow Jayla Ramirez, she looked up at me. Girl, you're trending. I was busy sorting through a stack of emails from parents asking about art classes. Great. More attention from Josephine's crowd is exactly what I need. No, this is different. Carmen sat up. Look at these comments. People are inspired. You're changing the narrative. My phone buzzed. Another message from Melina. Arts committee meeting tomorrow. We need to discuss program expansion. See? Carmen grinned. The tide is turning. Before I could respond, Presley burst through the front door, her backpack trailing behind her. Mum, look what Emma gave me. She thrust a flyer into my hands. Art supplies donation drive, organised by Noel and Emma. The image showed kids painting together, with a quote about community spirit. Can we help? Please? Of course we can. I hugged her, breathing in the familiar scent of crayons and strawberry shampoo. How was school today? Her smile faltered slightly. Fine, but what? Jessica said her mum told her not to play with me anymore, because we're... What was the word? Opportunists. My blood ran cold. Jessica's mum was one of Josephine's closest friends. Carmen muttered something unrepeatable. That witch is already making moves. It's okay, Presley said quickly. Emma told Jessica that was a stupid thing to say, and now lots of kids want to join art club. I forced a smile, but inside I was seething. Going after me was one thing, but my daughter? My phone buzzed again. Unknown number, I answered cautiously. Is this the freelance homemaker? A snooty voice asked. Excuse me? I saw your flyer. Do you do windows too, or just basic cleaning? I hung up, my hand shaking. Carmen was already at the window peering out. Oh, hell no, look at this. Posted on telephone poles up and down our street were crude flyers. Need help around the house? Call Jayla. Reasonable rates for the struggling single mum. Complete with my phone number. Real mature, Josephine, I muttered. Mum? Presley's voice was small. Why are there pictures of you on the poles? Because some people, I said carefully, don't know how to lose gracefully. Carmen was already ripping down the nearest flyer. We'll take care of this, sweetie. Why don't you go start your homework? Once Presley was upstairs, Carmen turned to me. This means war. No, I said, watching another car slow down to read a flyer. This means she's scared. My phone rang again. This time it was Noel. Hey, I just drove past your street. Need some help taking those down? That would be amazing, actually. 20 minutes later, Noel arrived with Emma and a staple remover. As we worked our way down the street, he filled me in on what he'd discovered about Carson's finances. The offshore account is still active, he said quietly, glancing around. Someone's been making regular transfers. Let me guess. Around the same time as certain political donations. He nodded. You thinking what I'm thinking? That my dear sister-in-law has been playing with dirty money. Yeah. We were interrupted by Presley running out, clutching an envelope. Mum, this came for me. My heart sank as I recognised the logo, the annual Arts Achievement Scholarship. Presley had been talking about it for months. She tore it open eagerly, then her face fell. Oh, I took the letter gently. Rejected, despite Presley's portfolio being the strongest in her age group, according to every art teacher she'd had. The selection committee, I read aloud, regrets to inform you. Josephine's on that committee, Noel said quietly, along with half her country club friends. Presley's lower lip trembled. Did I do something wrong? No, baby, I hugged her tight. You did everything right. Sometimes adults just make mistakes. Emma grabbed Presley's hand. Come on, let's go plan the art drive. We don't need their stupid scholarship anyway. As the girls ran inside, Noel touched my arm. As a lawyer, I find it interesting how scholarship decisions might be influenced by personal vendettas. Very interesting, I agreed. Almost as interesting as mysterious political donations. Carmen joined us, carrying the last of the flyers. So, what's the play? I watched through the window as Presley and Emma sprawled on the floor with their art supplies, already bouncing back from the disappointment. The play, I said slowly, is to follow the money, all of it. Because Josephine had just made 3 crucial mistakes. She'd targeted my daughter, she'd gotten sloppy, and most importantly, she'd forgotten that I had nothing left to lose. Time to show her what a real opportunist could do. Look at these voting records. I spread the scholarship committee documents across Noel's desk. Every recipient for the past 3 years has been connected to Josephine's social circle. Noel leaned back in his chair, tie loosened after a long day at his law office. And the rejected applications? All from families outside their bubble, including 3 previous winners who suddenly became unqualified after their parents opposed Josephine's PTA initiatives. That's not just petty, he said. That's potentially illegal. The scholarship fund receives tax benefits based on being merit-based and unbiased. A knock interrupted us. Carmen poked her head in, waving her phone. You need to see this. Josephine's doing damage control. She showed us a social media post. Josephine beaming beside a giant check, presenting it to the school's music department. The caption read, "Supporting all arts at Oakridge, unlike some who play favourites. Thus, real philanthropy, subtle," I muttered. Wait! Noel grabbed the phone, zooming in. That check. The account number. I've seen it before. He pulled up files on his computer, comparing numbers. Here. Same account that's been receiving those offshore transfers. My hand shook slightly. She's laundering money through school donations. Among other things, he lowered his voice. Your husband's old campaign finances. They're connected too. A memory surfaced. Carson, stressed and drinking, muttering about his sister, fixing the books. I'd assumed he meant her personal accounts. I need to talk to Lionel, I said suddenly. Carmen raised an eyebrow. Josephine's husband? You think he'll help? He's been acting strange lately. At the fundraiser, did you notice how he wouldn't let Josephine use his paddle? Do it somewhere public, Noel advised. Somewhere Josephine wouldn't expect. That's how I found myself at the local gym at 6 a.m. the next morning, coincidentally choosing the treadmill next to Lionel's regular machine. Jailer? He nearly stumbled when he saw me. What are you? Just trying to stay healthy, I smiled, starting a slow jog. How are things? He glanced around nervously. Fine. Everything's fine. Really? Because the scholarship committee results seemed a bit off. His pace faltered. I don't know anything about that. No? What about the offshore account? The one still making transfers? He hit the stop button so hard the machine beeped in protest. Who told you about that? Does it matter? What matters is that Josephine is using it to fund her little power plays. You don't understand, he whispered, wiping his face with a towel. She has everything locked down, the accounts, the social connections, even the family trust. She threatened you, didn't she? His silence was answer enough. What? Did my husband know, Lionel? He checked his phone quickly. She'll be at her yoga class for another hour. Meet me at the coffee shop across the street. 20 minutes later, over bitter coffee and guilt, Lionel spilled everything. Carson found out about the money laundering, threatened to expose it. Then the accident happened. Are you saying... No, he looked horrified. Nothing like that. But afterward, Josephine used the chaos to take control. Said she'd implicate me if I ever spoke up. And now she's using that same account to fund her image rehabilitation. While keeping me trapped, he nodded. And others too. You're not the first person she systematically destroyed. My phone buzzed. A text from Presley. Mum, something weird happened at school. Then another from Carmen. SOS, principal called. You need to get here. I have to go, I told Lionel, but this isn't over. Be careful, he warned. Josephine's already talking about having Presley evaluated for emotional stability to challenge your custody. My blood ran cold. She what? She's convinced your recent erratic behaviour is affecting Presley. She's building a case. I made it to the school in record time. The principal's office was crowded. Carmen, Melina, and a tearful Presley. What happened? Someone searched Presley's locker, Carmen explained. Found evidence that she cheated on her art submissions. It was planted, Melina added quickly. Security cameras caught everything. But what? The person who did it, they were paid with a check from the Arts Foundation account. I looked at my daughter, at her trembling lower lip and confused eyes, and something inside me hardened into steel. Mum, Presley whispered, why is Aunt Josephine trying to hurt us? I pulled her close, meeting Carmen's fierce gaze over her head. She's not going to hurt us, baby, because we're about to show her exactly what happens when you mess with the wrong family. It was time to stop playing defense. Josephine wanted to use money as a weapon? Fine. Let's see how she handles bankruptcy. The transfers always happen on the 15th, Noel explained, spreading bank statements across my kitchen table. Like clockwork, money goes in from anonymous donors, comes out as charitable contributions. Carmen whistled low. That's a lot of zeros. And every donation coincides with a political event, I added, pointing to dates. School board elections, city council votes, charity auctions, all carefully orchestrated by Josephine, Noel nodded. She's been buying influence for years. My phone lit up with a text from Lionel. She's planning something big. Emergency foundation meeting called for tomorrow. Perfect timing, Carmen smirked, because look what I found. She pulled up a video on her laptop. Security footage from the school hallway showed a woman in designer sunglasses, slipping something into Presley's locker. That's Patricia, I said, Josephine's personal assistant, who just happened to deposit a very generous check that same day, Noel added, pulling up another document, signed by Josephine from the foundation account. We've got her, Carmen declared. Not yet. I stood up, pacing. We need more. Something that proves she knew about Carson's involvement. A knock at the door made us all jump. I opened it to find Melina looking nervous. Sorry to drop by so late, but... She glanced around before stepping inside. I found something in the old PTA files. She pulled out a folder. 3 years ago, Carson tried to audit the foundation's books. The next day, he had his accident. My hand shook as I read the documents. Carson's signature, requesting full financial disclosure. Dated the day before he died. There's more, Melina continued. Josephine took control of all accounts immediately after. She claimed it was to protect the family legacy, but she was protecting herself, I finished. My phone buzzed again. Josephine's name flashed on the screen. Put it on speaker, Noel whispered. Hello, sister dear. Her voice dripped honey-coated venom. I heard the most interesting rumour today. Really? Do tell. Someone's been asking questions about Carson's old accounts, stirring up ancient history. Ancient history like the Foundation's offshore accounts? Silence. Then, I'm having a small dinner party tomorrow night. Just family. You should come. Why? Because, her voice hardened, family should stick together, don't you think? After I hung up, Carmen grabbed my arm. It's a trap. Obviously. She's scared, Noel observed. Making mistakes. Another knock. This time it was Lionel, looking dishevelled. She knows, he blurted out. Someone tipped her off about the investigation. How much does she know? Enough to start moving money. She's calling in favors, trying to cover her tracks. I thought of Presley sleeping upstairs, innocent in all this. What's her plan for tomorrow? She's gathered evidence, photos of you harassing her, statements about your mental state. She's going to threaten to use it all unless you back off. Let her try. You don't understand, he insisted. She'll destroy you. Your reputation, your custody arrangement, everything. No, I said quietly. She won't. I pulled out my phone, showing him the video of Patricia at Presley's locker. His eyes widened. There's more, Noel added, explaining about the accounts, the paper trail, Carson's audit request. Lionel sank into a chair. She'll implicate me if this comes out. Not if you help us, I offered. Turn state's witness. Protect yourself. And Presley, Carmen added, because this isn't just about money anymore. She went after a child. My phone buzzed yet again. A text from an unknown number. Meeting moved up. Dinner's tonight. Don't be late. She's accelerating her timeline, Sida, Lionel muttered. She must have more evidence than we thought. Good, I said, grabbing my keys. Let her show her hand. Jailer? Noel caught my arm. Don't go alone. I won't. I looked at Carmen. Can you stay with Presley? She nodded. What are you going to do? I thought about Carson's last day, about Presley's tears, about years of subtle humiliation and not so subtle threats. I'm going to do what Carson couldn't. I'm going to end this. Be careful, Melina warned. Josephine fights dirty. I know. I checked my phone's recording app, making sure it was working. But so do I. As I drove to Josephine's mansion, I thought about her words from the fundraiser. A casserole girl playing philanthropist? Well, sister dear, I thought, pulling into her circular driveway. Let's see how you handle a casserole girl playing judge, jury, and executioner. Because tonight, Karma wasn't just coming for dinner. She was hosting the whole damn party. Josephine's dining room looked like something out of a magazine. All crystal and candlelight, with place settings that probably cost more than my monthly rent. 6 people sat around the massive table, Josephine, Lionel, their 2 closest couple friends, my former mother-in-law Ariel, and me. Wine, Josephine offered, holding up a bottle that probably cost more than my car. I'm good with water. I touched my phone in my pocket, confirming it was still recording. Always so practical, she smiled, taking her seat at the head of the table. Shall we discuss why we're really here? Please do. She dabbed her lips with a napkin. It's come to my attention that you've been making some troubling accusations, spreading rumours about family business. Rumours? I took a sip of water. Like the rumour about Carson's audit request the day before he died? Silverware clattered. Lionel's hand shook as he reached for his wine. Ancient history, Josephine waved dismissively. What concerns me is your recent behaviour, the scholarship committee incident, the foundation questions. It's raising concerns about your stability. My stability? We're worried about Presley, Ariel chimed in. Growing up with a mother who's clearly struggling. Struggling? I laughed. Is that what we're calling it when someone exposes fraud? Careful, Josephine's voice turned sharp. Think about what you're implying. Oh, I have proof of what I'm implying. Would you like to see the offshore account records? Or should we start with the video of Patricia planting evidence in my daughter's locker? The colour drained from Josephine's face, but she recovered quickly. Margaret? Stephen? Would you mind giving us a moment? Family matter? The couple hurried out, leaving just the core players. Josephine, Lionel, Ariel, and me. You're playing a dangerous game, Josephine hissed once they were gone. No game, just justice. Justice? She laughed. You want to talk justice. Let's talk about how you latched onto Carson, rode his coattails into our world. While you used him to launder money, I countered, used his political connections to build your little empire. You have no idea what you're talking about. The foundation accounts say otherwise. So do the scholarship records, the donation trails, and Lionel's testimony. Her head snapped toward her husband. What did you do? Lionel stood up, hands shaking but voice steady. Enough, Josephine. It's over. Sit down, she snarled. No. He pulled out his phone. The FBI already has everything. I sent it this morning. Ariel gasped. You betrayed family? Family? I cut in. Was it family when you threatened my custody? When you tried to frame my 9-year-old daughter for cheating? I was protecting our legacy. Josephine slammed her hand on the table. Everything I did was to maintain our position, our influence, while committing tax fraud, money laundering, and child endangerment. I pulled out my phone, stopping the recording. Thank you for that confession, by the way. She lunged for my phone, but Lionel caught her arm. Don't make it worse. You're all going to regret this, she spat. I'll make sure of it. No, I stood up calmly. You won't. Because tomorrow morning, this recording goes public unless you do exactly what I say. You're blackmailing me? I'm giving you a choice. Resign from all your positions. Return the scholarship money to its rightful recipients. Write a public apology to every family you've hurt. Or what? Or I destroy everything you've built. Your reputation, your social standing, your freedom, all of it goes up in smoke. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and one more thing. You're going to fund a new arts program in Carson's name for underprivileged kids. This is absurd, Ariel protested. You can't just... I can, and I am. I met Josephine's eyes. You have until noon tomorrow. Choose wisely. As I reached the front door, Josephine's voice rang out. You really think you've won? That you can take everything I've built? I thought of Presley, of her tears, of every slight and humiliation we'd endured. No, Josephine, I'm not taking anything. I'm just serving justice. I smiled. And like I said about casseroles, it's best served hot. The door closed behind me with a satisfying click. In my car, my phone lit up with a text from Carmen. Presley's asleep. Everything okay? Better than okay, I replied. Tell Noelle to prepare those documents. Josephine's about to have a very public change of heart. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth. It's forcing your enemy to admit it themselves. And Josephine was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The school gymnasium was packed again, but this time the tension in the air was electric. Josephine stood at the podium, her designer outfit impeccable as always, but her hands trembled as she gripped the microphone. She cleared her throat, glancing at where Lionel and I stood with our lawyers. I have an announcement to make. The crowd leaned forward, phones recorded, local news cameras rolled. Due to personal reasons, I'm stepping down from all my foundation and committee positions. Her voice cracked slightly. Additionally, I need to address some irregularities in our scholarship program. Whispers rippled through the audience. I felt Presley squeeze my hand. Previous scholarship decisions will be reviewed, Josephine continued, each word clearly painful. All affected students will receive retroactive funding with interest. Mom, Presley whispered, is this because of my art scholarship? This is because of everything, baby. Josephine was still talking. Furthermore, I'm announcing the creation of the Carson Memorial Arts Program, fully funded for underprivileged youth in our community. The whispers grew louder. I spotted Carmen in the crowd, filming everything with a satisfied smirk. And finally, Josephine's knuckles were white on the podium, I want to publicly apologise to those I've hurt with my actions, particularly to Jayla and Presley, who have shown remarkable grace under difficult circumstances. Melina stepped up to the microphone next. Thank you, Josephine. And now I'd like to announce our new Arts Advocacy Board Chair, Jayla. The applause was deafening. Presley bounced on her toes as I made my way to the podium. Thank you, I said simply. Art saved my life once. Now it's going to save others. More applause. In the back, I saw Josephine trying to slip away. One more thing, I added. Success isn't about money or power. It's about lifting others up, not pushing them down. Sometimes it takes losing everything to learn that lesson. Josephine froze, then hurried out the door. The next hour was a blur of congratulations and questions. Parents who'd once avoided eye contact now wanted to volunteer. Former scholarship recipients shared their stories. You did it. Noel appeared at my elbow, Emma beside him. The foundation board is already implementing oversight measures. We all did it, I corrected, watching Emma and Presley compare art supplies. Sometimes it takes a village to serve justice. Speaking of justice, Carmen joined us, waving her phone. This video's already viral. Just Karma served is trending. A commotion near the exit caught our attention. Josephine stood there looking lost and angry. Excuse me, I told the others, walking over to her. Happy now? She spat. You've destroyed everything I built. No, you did that yourself. I just exposed it. You think you're so righteous? You have no idea what it takes to maintain this world, to what? Hurt children? Steal dreams? Yeah, I'll pass. She stepped closer, voice low. You made fun of a casserole once. I rebuilt the kitchen. The kitchen was rotten, I replied calmly. It needed rebuilding. Tears appeared in her eyes, real ones for once. What am I supposed to do now? Start over, do better, or don't. I shrugged. That's the thing about karma. It gives you choices, but you have to live with them. I turned to walk away, but her voice stopped me. Carson knew, didn't he, about the accounts? Yes, and he was going to expose it all. I didn't, she swallowed hard. I didn't have anything to do with his accident. You have to believe that. I do, I said softly, but you dishonoured his memory every day since. Presley's voice called out from across the gym. Mom, come see our art project design. Excuse me, I told Josephine. My daughter needs me. Jayla? Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm sorry. For everything. I know. That's why I gave you a choice instead of destroying you completely. Walking back to the group, I felt lighter somehow. Noel smiled as I approached, holding out a coffee. So, he said, now that justice is served, how about that vacation? A real one this time. I looked at our daughters, heads bent together over their art supplies, then back at him. You know what? I think we've earned it, because sometimes the best revenge isn't just winning. It's winning with grace, style, and a whole new kitchen to cook in. And this time, I'd be the one setting the menu. The mountain air was crisp as I unpacked our picnic on the hiking trail overlook. Noel spread out a blanket while our girls explored nearby rocks, their laughter echoing across the valley. Found another one. Presley held up a smooth stone. Perfect for painting. Add it to the collection, I called back, arranging containers of food. Please tell me you brought the famous casserole, Noel teased, sitting beside me. Actually, I opened the largest container with a flourish. I did. Mum's casserole is famous now, Presley informed Emma proudly. The community centre keeps asking her to make it for events. Speaking of which, Noel pulled out his phone. Have you seen the latest enrolment numbers for the arts programme? I had. We'd had to open 3 new locations to handle the demand. Every week brought new success stories, kids discovering their talents, parents finding community, families healing through art. Melina called yesterday, I said, serving food onto plates. The school board unanimously approved the expanded budget. And Josephine? I thought about my former sister-in-law, now teaching art therapy at a youth centre across town. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by paint-splattered aprons. Her social circle had shifted from country club members to recovering addicts and troubled teens. She's doing better, I admitted. Actually, helping people for once. Aunt Josephine taught me a new painting technique last week, Presley added, settling down with her plate. She's different now, nicer. People can surprise you, Noel said softly, squeezing my hand. A notification pinged on my phone. Carmen sending photos from the latest foundation event. The Carson Memorial Arts Programme was thriving, with Lionel now actively involved in its management. Mum? Presley's voice pulled me back to the present. Can we have the art fair at our house this time, since we have the new studio? The studio, my converted garage where I now taught private lessons, was my favourite part of our new home. After everything settled, we'd moved to a modest but comfortable house closer to the community centre. No mansion like Josephine's, but filled with light and creativity and love. Of course we can, I smiled. Maybe we'll even let Aunt Josephine help organise. Really? Presley's eyes widened. Really. Sometimes people deserve second chances. Like Dad? She asked quietly. I took a deep breath. We'd had many conversations about Carson lately, about his mistakes and his attempts to fix them. Yes, like Dad. He tried to do the right thing in the end. Is that why you helped Aunt Josephine? Because Dad would have wanted to? I helped her because it was right, I said carefully, and because sometimes the best revenge is helping someone become better. Plus, Emma chimed in, now we get double art lessons. The girls ran off to collect more rocks, leaving Noel and me with our thoughts and cooling casserole. You know, he said, when I first offered to help investigate Josephine, I never expected all this. All what? The scandal, the redemption, the fact that you're dating a casserole-making vigilante? He laughed. The fact that one person's courage could change so many lives. My phone buzzed again. A text from Ariel, my former mother-in-law. Presley's paintings arrived. They're beautiful. Thank you. Even she had come around, slowly building a real relationship with her granddaughter for the first time. Mum, Presley called. Emma found a perfect spot for our easels. Coming! I stood, brushing off my jeans. Want to help set up their art station? Always. Noel gathered the supplies. You know, you never did tell me what made you finally stand up to Josephine that first night. I watched our daughters arranging their makeshift studio on a flat rock, their heads bent together in concentration. She made my daughter cry, I said simply. Everything else, the money, the power plays, the social climbing, that was just noise. But when she hurt Presley, Mama Bear came out. Something better. I smiled hard, but Karma did. We joined the girls, helping them set up their easels against the mountain backdrop. As they painted, I thought about journeys, how they rarely end where you expect, how revenge can turn to redemption, how sometimes the best way to serve justice is with a side of grace. And yes, maybe a casserole too, because in the end, it was never about getting even. It was about getting better. All of us, even Josephine, especially Josephine. And that, I realised as I watched my daughter paint her bright future onto canvas, was the sweetest victory of all.
The first time my Uncle Wallace told me I was running my women's shelter wrong, I actually laughed. The way he said it, so casual, leaning against the door frame of my office like he owned the place, made it sound almost like a joke. But his eyes weren't laughing. My name is Sadie, and 5 years ago I transformed my late mother's Victorian house into Rosehaven, a shelter for women escaping abuse. Mum never had a place like this to run to. Now 28 women call these walls home, and each morning when I unlock the front door, I think of her. The board meeting went well, I said, shuffling grant proposals on my desk. We're on track to expand the East Wing by spring. Wallace stepped into my office uninvited, his expensive cologne filling the space. About that. You know, a man might be better suited to steer a ship like this. I stopped shuffling papers and looked up. The fluorescent lights caught the silver in his hair, and for a moment I saw echoes of my mother's features in his face. Same high cheekbones, same steel blue eyes. The resemblance made what he'd just said even worse. I've been steering this ship just fine for 5 years, I replied, keeping my voice level. The expansion project is fully funded and our success rate... Success is relative, sweetheart. He perched on the edge of my desk, uninvited. You're thinking too small. With my business background, we could turn this into something really special. 6 months ago, when Wallace showed up at my door, broken, disgraced after his investment firm collapsed, I let him stay in our guest room. Mum would have wanted me to help family, I told myself. Everyone deserves a second chance, I reasoned. A knock at the door saved me from responding. Peyton, one of our former residents turned staff members, stuck her head in. Sorry to interrupt, but Maria's having a panic attack in the kitchen. She saw someone who looks like her ex walking past the house. I stood immediately. Wallace didn't move from my desk. We'll finish this discussion later, he said, as if he had any authority to dismiss me. In the kitchen, I found Maria, huddled between the refrigerator and counter, her breathing rapid and shallow. I crouched beside her, not touching, just present. You're safe here, Maria. The doors are locked, and we have cameras. Want to tell me what you saw? As she described the man outside, I heard Wallace's footsteps behind me. He cleared his throat. Shouldn't we call the police? That's the proper procedure. Maria flinched at his voice. I turned, positioning myself between them. Uncle Wallace, please give us some space. I'm just trying to help, he said, spreading his hands in what he probably thought was a harmless gesture. You women tend to get emotional in these situations. Peyton appeared with a cup of tea and a firm expression. Mr. Jordan, resident crisis protocols are staff only. Would you mind giving us the room? He left, but not before saying, just trying to implement some professional standards around here. It took 30 minutes to help Maria calm down. The man outside had been a delivery driver, but her reaction was completely valid. When she finally felt steady enough to return to her room, I found Maren, my best friend and legal advisor, waiting in my office. Your uncle cornered me in the parking lot, she said without preamble. He had some interesting ideas about modernising Rosehaven's management structure. I sank into my chair. Let me guess. With him at the top? Bingo. Maren perched on my desk where Wallace had sat earlier, but her presence was comforting rather than intrusive. Sadie, I know he's family, but something feels off. The way he's been inserting himself into shelter business. He's just trying to feel useful, I said, but the words sounded hollow even to me. After losing everything in that scandal. That's what worries me, Maren cut in. Have you actually looked into what happened with his company? Because the rumours I've heard... A sharp knock interrupted us. Wallace again, this time with a stranger in an expensive suit. Sadie, dear. I'd like you to meet my friend Caden. He's very interested in our little operation here. Wallace's smile didn't reach his eyes. We were thinking it's time to discuss some changes, professional changes. I met his gaze steadily, thinking of my mother, thinking of Maria huddled in the kitchen, thinking of all the women who'd found safety within these walls. Our little operation, I repeated softly, is doing just fine. Wallace's smile tightened. We'll see about that. I found Peyton crying in the supply closet at midnight. She jumped when I opened the door, hastily wiping her eyes with the sleeve of her sweater. I'm fine, she said quickly. Just organising the donations. But the tremor in her voice told a different story. I crouched down beside her, noting how the cleaning supplies had been meticulously arranged. Something Peyton did when she was anxious. What happened? I asked softly. She shook her head. It's stupid. Wallace wanted to discuss my career development earlier. He cornered me in the kitchen after everyone went to bed. My stomach clenched. What exactly did he say? Just how I have potential. How he could mentor me. Help me move up." She hugged herself tightly. The way he looked at me, Sadie. It reminded me of my stepfather before. I didn't need her to finish that sentence. Every woman at Rosehaven knew that look. "He won't come near you again," I promised, helping her up. "I'll make sure of it." The next morning, I found Wallace sitting in on my weekly staff meeting, uninvited as usual. He'd claimed the chair at the head of the table, my usual spot. "Just observing," he said with that practiced smile. "Carry on." I remained standing. "Actually, Uncle Wallace, these meetings are confidential. We discuss sensitive resident information. Family's different," he replied smoothly. "Besides, I've been thinking about our conversation regarding professional standards. The board might appreciate having a male perspective on security matters." "The board hasn't approved you as staff," I countered, "and resident privacy isn't negotiable." His eyes hardened. "Sadie, dear, you're being emotional again. I'm only trying to help." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Cassandra, the local journalist who'd covered Rosehaven's success story last month. "Need to talk. Urgent. Coffee." An hour later, I sat across from Cassandra at the cafe down the street. She slid a manila folder across the table. "I was researching your uncle for a piece on local business scandals," she said quietly. "Found something interesting in sealed court records." I opened the folder. Inside was a decade-old harassment complaint filed by 3 female employees at Wallace's company. The case had been settled out of court, the records buried. "There's more," Cassandra continued. "He's been meeting with board members, Jonah especially." My hands shook slightly. "How do you know?" "I have sources at the country club. They've had lunch there 4 times in the past 2 weeks. She leaned forward. "Sadie, he's working angles, building allies. Back at the shelter, I found Maren waiting in my office. Her expression was grim. "The Thompson Foundation grant is delayed," she said without preamble. "Apparently, someone raised concerns about our financial management." "Wallace," I said. It wasn't a question. "Most likely. He's been calling donors, suggesting the shelter needs more experienced leadership." Maren's lips thinned. "We need to start documenting everything." A knock at the door made us both turn. It was Jonah, looking uncomfortable in his press suit. "Sadie, do you have a moment? Some concerns have been raised about resident selection procedures." I noticed Wallace hovering in the hallway behind him, watching. That evening, I stayed late reviewing files. A sound made me look up. Peyton stood in my doorway, pale-faced. "I just caught Wallace in your office," she said. "He was going through your locked filing cabinet. Said he was looking for insurance papers. But Sadie..." She swallowed hard. The drawer he had open was resident files. I felt cold. "Did he see you?" She nodded. "He said not to bother you with trivial matters. Said it would reflect badly on my future here if I caused problems." My hands clenched under the desk. "Thank you for telling me, Peyton. You did exactly right." After she left, I pulled out my phone and called Maren. "I need you to help me set up security cameras," I said. "And I'm changing all the locks tomorrow." "Finally," she replied. "I'll bring the equipment tonight." "But Sadie, you know this is just the beginning, right? Men like Wallace don't back down easily." I thought of my mother, who'd spent years trying to appease an abusive husband before finally escaping. I thought of Peyton in the supply closet, of Maria's panic attack, of all the women who'd trusted me to keep them safe. "I know," I said quietly, "but neither do I." As I hung up, a new email notification popped up on my screen, from Wallace CC'd to the entire board. "Proposal for restructuring Rosehaven leadership, urgent review required." The battle lines were drawn. I just hoped I was ready for what came next. The whispers started small, but spread like poison. First, it was a donor who called to verify some concerning information. Then a board member asking about financial discrepancies. By Wednesday, even our most loyal volunteers were exchanging worried glances when I walked by. "He's systematic," Maren said, reviewing the growing stack of emails on my desk. "Every rumour is just plausible enough to plant doubt." I played her the latest recording from the hidden camera in my office. Wallace's voice filled the room. "Between us, Jonah, I'm worried about her emotional stability. Running a shelter like this, it's bringing up trauma from her childhood. Perhaps it's time for more experienced leadership." Maren's expression darkened. "That manipulative bastard." A knock interrupted us. Cassandra slipped in, closing the door quietly behind her. Your uncle's been busy, she said, dropping a notepad on my desk. He's approached 3 major grant foundations, positioning himself as Rosehaven's executive advisor. Suggested the shelter needs restructuring before they commit more funds. That explains the Thompson grant delay, I muttered. There's more. Cassandra hesitated. He's been telling people you show favouritism to certain residents, implying inappropriate relationships. My stomach lurched. That's why Jonah's been asking about our resident selection process. Speaking of Jonah, Maren cut in, guess who just called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow? Before I could respond, Peyton burst in. Sadie! Wallace is showing some men around the shelter. They're taking pictures. I found them in the East Wing, where construction was supposed to start next month. Wallace stood with Caden and another man I didn't recognise, gesturing at the walls. You'd tag you perfect for private offices once we renovate, Wallace was saying. The current layout is inefficient. This is a restricted area, I interrupted sharply. Residence rooms are down this hall. Photography isn't allowed. Caden lowered his phone with an oily smile. Just gathering data for the proposal, Ms. Jordan. Your uncle speaks highly of the shelter's potential. Any proposals go through proper channels, I said. Through me. About that, Wallace stepped forward. The board's considering a new management structure. These gentlemen represent potential investors. We're a non-profit, I reminded him, not a business opportunity. Everything's a business opportunity, Caden replied. With the right leadership. That night, I couldn't sleep. The security camera feed played on my laptop, showing Wallace in the common area, talking quietly with Maria. My blood boiled watching him lean close, speaking with fake concern while she nervously twisted her hands. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Footage you should see. Meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. See. The next morning, I met Cassandra at a diner far from Rosehaven. She passed me a USB drive. Security footage from Wallace's old company, she explained. Took some digging, but my contact came through. Watch the timestamp marked Office Holiday Party 2019. I plugged it into my laptop. The grainy video showed Wallace cornering a young employee, his body language eerily similar to how he'd approached Peyton. The woman's discomfort was clear. There are dozens like this, Cassandra said quietly, all buried in settlements and NDAs. My phone buzzed again, Maren this time. Emergency. Get back here now. I found her in the file room, surrounded by scattered papers. Someone's been through these, recently. The grant documentation, the resident intake forms, they're out of order. Could they have copied anything? I asked, heart pounding. Worse. She held up a form. This isn't our paperwork. It's forged. They're planting false documentation. A text from Peyton lit up my phone. Wallace in your office again, not alone. I pulled up the security feed. Wallace sat at my desk with Caden and the other man, rifling through drawers. My hands shook as I hit record. Found it, Wallace said on screen. Financial records. Now we just need... The feed cut out. They found the camera, Maren breathed. I was already moving. When I reached my office, they were gone, but my desk had been thoroughly searched. A single envelope sat in the centre, marked Confidential, Board Eyes Only. Inside was a detailed report of supposed mismanagement, complete with doctored financial statements and false resident complaints. The final page was a proposal for new leadership, with Wallace as executive director. My phone buzzed one last time. Jonah. Emergency board meeting moved up. 1 hour, attendance mandatory. I looked at Maren, then at the envelope, then at my phone where evidence of Wallace's true nature sat safely recorded. Call Cassandra, I said. It's time to show the board exactly who they're dealing with. You sure? Maren asked. Once we do this... He brought war to my house, I replied. Time to show him who really runs this shelter. The board meeting never happened. Instead, I found Wallace waiting in my office with Caden and another man in an expensive suit. The air felt thick with cologne and threat. Sadie, dear, Wallace smiled, that empty smile. Meet Rex. He's a strategic advisor specialising in difficult transitions. I remained standing in the doorway. The board meeting has been postponed, Wallace cut in smoothly. We thought it best to handle this privately. Family matter, you understand. Nothing about Rosehaven is a private family matter, I said. Rex cleared his throat. Ms. Jordan, we have a unique opportunity here. Your uncle has shared some concerning documentation about the shelter's operations. Fabricated documentation, I corrected. Strong accusation, Caden said, sliding a folder across my desk. These financial records suggest otherwise. The board would be very interested in these discrepancies. I didn't touch the folder. Is this where you threaten me? Wallace leaned forward, dropping his smile. This is where I offer you a dignified exit. Sign over operational control, and these documents stay private. So do the witness statements about your inappropriate relationships with residents. My blood ran cold. They twisted Peyton's situation into something ugly. You're trying to blackmail me with lies, I said quietly. Lies, truth. It's all about perception. Rex shrugged. How do you think the media will spin it? Troubled shelter director exploits vulnerable women. That's career-ending stuff. Think of the residents, Wallace added, his voice dripping false concern. This kind of scandal could shut down Rose Haven completely. Is your pride worth their safety? I thought of the security cameras recording every word of this conversation, of Cassandra's evidence, of my mother. You know what I think about, I said, sitting down calmly. I think about how men like you always underestimate women like me. Wallace's eyes narrowed. Don't be dramatic, Sadie. This is business. No, I replied. This is personal. You made it personal when you threatened my residents. Speaking of residents, Caden interjected, that pretty one, Peyton, she seems unstable, prone to making wild accusations. Would be a shame if her history of mental health issues came to light. My hands clenched under the desk, but I kept my voice steady. I'll need time to review the transfer documents. Smart girl, Wallace smiled. We'll need your decision by tomorrow, and Sadie... His eyes went cold. Don't try anything foolish. You're not as clever as you think. After they left, I sat in silence for exactly 1 minute before pulling out my phone. Maren, they did it. We got it all on camera. I paused. Get everyone ready, and call Cassandra. Tell her to run the story. You sure? Maren asked. This is the nuclear option, Sadie. Once we push this button... They threatened Peyton, I said quietly. They threatened all of us. Jesus! Maren was quiet for a moment. Okay, I'll set up the emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. But Sadie, you better be damn sure you know how deep this goes. Because if you push the button, there's no going back. I know exactly how deep it goes, I replied, thinking of the hidden camera footage, the forged documents, the years of buried harassment claims. And I'm done letting men like Wallace hurt women in my house. I found Peyton waiting outside my office. I heard them, she said softly. They're going to try to use me against you, aren't they? Try being the operative word, I replied, hugging her. You're not alone this time. None of us are. That night, I sat in my mother's old room, now my office, looking at her picture on the wall. She'd died never seeing her home become the sanctuary she'd dreamed of. Never seeing her brother become the very thing she'd fled from. My phone buzzed. A text from Cassandra. Story ready. Evidence authenticated. Say the word. Another from Maren. Legal documents prepared. Board members alerted. And finally, one from Wallace. Be reasonable, dear. Don't force my hand. I thought of all the women who had found safety in these walls. Of Peyton's tears in the supply closet. Of Maria's panic attacks. Of my mother. I texted back 3 words. Watch me, Uncle. Then I sent messages to Cassandra and Maren. Tomorrow morning. Release everything. I looked up at my mother's picture again. I learned from you, Mom, I whispered. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is fight back. My phone buzzed one last time. Wallace again. Last chance, Sadie. Don't throw away everything you've built. I smiled, thinking of the evidence safely backed up in multiple locations, the board members already questioning Wallace's story, the security cameras that had caught every threat. Don't worry, Uncle Wallace, I murmured. I'm not throwing away anything. I'm just getting started. You've got exactly 20 minutes before the board meeting, Maren said, pacing my office. Are you absolutely sure about this? I handed her a stack of papers. Look what I found hidden in the shelter's old charter. Her eyes widened as she read. A clause requiring unanimous board approval for any leadership changes. When did you add this? 2 weeks ago, I smiled. Right after Wallace started meeting with Jonah. Sneaky, she grinned. But we'll need more than legal tricks. Wallace has been working the board hard. A knock at the door revealed Cassandra, clutching her laptop. You need to see this. Someone leaked your mother's medical records to the press. They're trying to paint her as mentally unstable, and you by extension. Wallace, I growled. He's trying to get ahead of our story. It gets worse, Cassandra continued. They're claiming you've been emotionally manipulating residents, using your mother's abuse as a way to control them. My hands shook as I remembered Wallace's words. You're not as clever as you think. He's trying to trigger you, Maren warned. Make you emotional before the board meeting. Another knock. Peyton this time, looking nervous. Jonah's here early. He's asking to speak with you alone. I found him in the conference room, fidgeting with his tie. Sadie, please. Let's handle this reasonably. Wallace has some valid concerns about the shelter's direction. How many private meetings have you had with him, Jonah? I interrupted. 4 at the country club, right? What did he promise you? He paled. How did you... The same way I know about the offshore account he set up in your name last week. I watched his face crumble. Did you really think I wouldn't investigate once you started questioning every decision I made? He said he could help my campaign, Jonah whispered. Said having a successful women's shelter in my portfolio would look good for the Senate run. And now you're compromised, I finished. Better resign before this gets ugly. The board meeting room filled quickly. Wallace sat at one end, flanked by Caden and Rex. He looked confident, too confident. Before we begin, he announced, I have evidence of serious misconduct that needs addressing. Actually, I cut in, I have something to share first. I nodded to Maren, who started the projector. The security footage played clearly. Wallace threatening Peyton, searching my office, discussing blackmail with his cronies. There's more, I continued as Wallace's face darkened. Cassandra? She distributed packets to each board member. Sealed court records from Wallace's company, multiple harassment settlements, and proof that the documents he planned to present today were forged. This is ridiculous, Wallace sputtered. You're obviously emotionally unstable, just like your mother. My mother, I interrupted coldly, died protecting women from men like you, and now you're trying to turn her sanctuary into your personal redemption project. You ungrateful little... He caught himself, smoothing his expression. Board members, clearly my niece is having a breakdown. These accusations are... Recorded, Maren cut in. Every threat, every manipulation, every attempt to take over this shelter for your own gain. And that's not all, Cassandra added. Care to explain these emails between you and certain board members? The offshore accounts? Jonah stood abruptly. I resigned from the board, effective immediately. He practically ran from the room. Wallace's confidence cracked. This is family business. No, I said firmly. This is women's business. This is survival business. This is justice business. You can't prove... Actually, we can prove everything. I pressed play on another recording. Wallace and his friends discussing how to forge documents, how to threaten residents, how to destroy me. The board members exchanged horrified looks. Wallace's face went from red to white. Security will escort you out, I said quietly. The police have been notified. And Wallace, the restraining order is already filed. He stood slowly, straightening his jacket with trembling hands. You've made a serious mistake, Sadie. I was trying to help. No, I cut him off. You were trying to do what you've always done. Control women, take what isn't yours, and hurt anyone who stands in your way. But you made one crucial mistake. Oh? His voice dripped venom. What's that? I smiled my mother's smile, the one she used to give before standing up to my father. You thought because I was kind, I was weak. You forgot that sometimes the kindest people are the ones who know exactly how to fight back. As security led them out, Maren squeezed my shoulder. You okay? I watched Wallace's retreating back, thinking of all the women he'd hurt, all the lives he'd tried to control. I'm better than okay. I'm free. I should have known Wallace wouldn't go quietly. 3 days after the board meeting, he called an emergency shareholders meeting, a meeting that shouldn't have been possible since we were a non-profit. He's found a loophole, Maren explained, reviewing the paperwork. When you took that small business loan last year, it technically created shares. He's trying to claim controlling interest. Can he do that? Not legally, but he's counting on creating enough chaos to force a leadership vote. The meeting room was packed. Wallace sat at the head of the table, looking smugger than ever. Caden and Rex flanked him like expensive bookends. "Thank you all for coming," Wallace began, standing. "As interim executive director—" "You're not the interim anything," I interrupted. He smiled thinly. "Actually, according to these documents, I am." He gestured, and Rex started distributing folders. "You'll find proof of my appointment, signed by several board members, dated last month." My heart stopped. The signatures looked real. "Those signatures were obtained under false pretenses," Marin announced, standing. "We have evidence of coercion." "More baseless accusations," Wallace sighed dramatically. "But let's discuss the real issue, the financial irregularities I've uncovered." He clicked a remote, and figures appeared on the projection screen. Bank statements, grant allocations, resident records, all subtly altered to suggest mismanagement. "As you can see," he continued, "funds have been consistently misappropriated. Residents have been admitted without proper screening. The shelter's reputation is at risk." Murmurs filled the room. I caught Peyton's eye across the table. She gave me a slight nod. "That's interesting timing," I said calmly, "especially since our annual audit was completed last week. Would you like to see those results?" Wallace's smile faltered slightly. "These documents tell a different story." "Yes, they do," I agreed. "Because they're forged. Just like the harassment complaints you buried at your old company. Just like the board signatures you coerced." "You're becoming hysterical," Wallace said smoothly. "Just like your mother." "Actually," I cut in, "I'd like to play something for everyone." I nodded to Marin, who connected her laptop to the projector. The screen filled with security footage. Wallace in my office with Caden and Rex discussing their plans to forge documents. Wallace threatening Peyton. Wallace admitting to falsifying board signatures. The room went silent. That's been doctored," Wallace sputtered. "The timestamps and metadata prove otherwise," Marin replied. "And we have the originals safely stored with 3 different law firms." "Even if that were true," Rex interjected. "The shareholders, about that," I smiled. "Marin, show them the charter amendment." She projected the document I'd quietly filed 2 weeks earlier. "Any change in leadership requires unanimous board approval. And since 3 board members have already submitted written statements supporting Sadie," Wallace's face turned purple. "This is ridiculous! I built a successful company, which collapsed due to fraud," Cassandra called from the back of the room. "Would you like me to share those court records too?" "You ungrateful little bitch," Wallace hissed, mask finally slipping. "After everything I've done." "Everything you've done?" I stood slowly. "Let's talk about what you've done. You invaded a safe space for vulnerable women. You threatened my residents. You tried to destroy everything we built here." "I was trying to help," he shouted. "Women like you need guidance." "Women like me?" I pressed play again. The screen showed Wallace cornering Peyton, his threats clear and cruel. "Is this your idea of help?" I asked quietly. "Because it looks a lot like abuse to me." The room erupted in angry murmurs. Board members were standing, pointing at Wallace. Caden and Rex were already edging toward the door. "This meeting is over," I announced. "Security will escort you out. And Wallace. The police are waiting in the lobby. Those forged documents are a felony." He lunged forward, mask completely gone. "You think you've won? I'll destroy this place. I'll make sure everyone knows." "Knows what?" I asked. "That women can fight back? That we're not as weak as you think? That your time of hurting people is over?" 2 security guards appeared at his elbows. As they led him away, he turned back one last time. "This isn't over, Sadie." "Actually," I replied, thinking of my mother, thinking of Peyton, thinking of every woman who'd ever faced down a bully, it is. The room burst into applause. Marin hugged me. Peyton was crying happy tears. But I kept watching the door where Wallace had disappeared, because he was right about one thing. It wasn't quite over. Not yet. We still had to make sure he could never hurt anyone again. And I knew exactly how to do it. The police interview room was cold and sterile. Wallace sat across from me, his expensive suit wrinkled from hours in holding. His lawyer kept whispering urgently in his ear, but Wallace's eyes never left my face. "You're making a mistake," he said, for the 3rd time. "We can still fix this, keep it in the family." "Family?" I placed a folder on the table. "Like how you kept my mother's abuse in the family by convincing her not to press charges?" His jaw tightened. "That was different." "No," I said quietly. "It wasn't. You protected her abuser then, just like you tried to become one now. The door opened. Cassandra walked in with a police detective carrying a laptop. Mr. Jordan, the detective said, we have some questions about these emails we've recovered. Wallace's lawyer straightened. My client doesn't have to... Actually, Cassandra interrupted, he might want to hear this first. She opened the laptop, turning it to face Wallace, especially the parts about bribing grant officials and threatening witnesses. The colour drained from Wallace's face as he read. Where did you get these? Caden turned state's evidence an hour ago, I said. Rex followed shortly after. Apparently, loyalty isn't their strong suit when facing federal charges. You can't prove. We have the wire transfers, the detective cut in. The forged documents, the recorded threats. The question is, do you want to make this easier or harder on yourself? Wallace's lawyer leaned forward. We need a moment. Of course, I stood. But first, I placed another document on the table. This is a civil suit from every woman you've hurt, every settlement you buried, every victim you silenced. They're all coming forward now. You're emotional, Wallace sneered, but his voice shook. Just like your mother. My mother, I cut in, died thinking she was weak for not fighting back. I won't make the same mistake. Outside the interview room, Maren was waiting with Peyton. How'd it go? Maren asked. His lawyer's probably explaining plea bargain options right now, I smiled. But that's not the best part. I nodded toward the station entrance where reporters were gathering. Cassandra stepped up to the microphones. Breaking news, she announced. Multiple federal charges filed against prominent businessman Wallace Jordan, including fraud, witness tampering, and conspiracy. My phone buzzed with messages as the story broke. All grant funding restored, plus additional emergency funds approved. Board member, donations pouring in from domestic violence survivors. Shelter staff. You did it, Sadie. You really did it. Peyton back at Rose Haven. Maria was waiting in my office. Is it true? She asked. He can't hurt anyone else. It's true, I confirmed. The restraining order covers the entire shelter. And with the federal charges... She hugged me suddenly. Thank you for showing us we can fight back. That evening, I found Wallace's face plastered across every news channel. His perp walk played on repeat. The mighty businessman brought low. His expensive suit no longer pristine. His confident smile replaced by desperate fear. Quite a sight, Maren said, joining me. But we're not done yet. She handed me more papers. 3 more women came forward after the arrest. And Jonas agreed to testify about the bribes. What about Caden and Rex? Singing like canaries, she grinned. They're terrified of federal prison. My phone buzzed again, a message from Wallace's lawyer. Client willing to discuss full confession in exchange for consideration. He's breaking, Maren observed. Good, I replied, because tomorrow's headline is even bigger. I showed her Cassandra's draft. Shelter founder exposes decades of systematic abuse in business world. Survivors speak out. The article included everything. The buried settlements, the threatened employees, the forged documents. But more importantly, it included stories from women who'd finally found their voices. Your mother would be proud, Maren said softly. I looked around the shelter, at Maria helping new residents settle in, at Peyton leading a support group, at the walls that had transformed from a prison of silence into a fortress of strength. She always told me that helping one person wasn't enough, I said. That we had to change the whole system. Well, Maren smiled, showing me another news alert. Business leaders full triggers industry-wide investigation into harassment cover-ups. Think we changed enough? My phone buzzed one final time. A text from the detective. Wallace confessed. Full deal. He's going away for a long time. I thought of my mother, of every woman who'd ever been told to stay quiet, to keep things private, to not make waves. No, I replied to Maren, but it's a damn good start. The courtroom fell silent as Wallace was led away in handcuffs. His expensive suit had been replaced by prison orange, his confident smirk by defeated resignation. 15 years, no possibility of early parole. The judge had been particularly harsh after hearing testimony from 32 women. You okay? Maren squeezed my hand. Better than okay, I replied, watching my uncle disappear through the secure door. But we're not finished. Outside, reporters swarmed the courthouse steps. Cassandra nodded to me, our signal. It was time. Ms. Jordan, how do you feel about the verdict? I stepped up to the microphones. This isn't about one verdict or one man. This is about breaking the cycle of silence. That's why I'm announcing the Rosehaven Initiative, a nationwide network of shelters and legal support for survivors of abuse. Camera flashes exploded. How will this be funded? With Wallace's seized assets, Marin answered, joining me. The court awarded full restitution to his victims. Many of them have chosen to donate those funds to help other survivors. Back at Rosehaven, I found Peyton leading a group session. The room was packed, women from all walks of life, finding strength in each other. My boss tried to corner me in the break room, one woman was saying. I used to freeze up, but after hearing about this place on the news, I reported him. He's suspended pending investigation. Murmurs of support filled the room. Another woman stood. I testified against Wallace. It was terrifying, but seeing all of you here, I'm not afraid anymore. My phone buzzed. A message from the detective. Caden and Rex took plea deals. They're cooperating on other cases. This goes deeper than we thought. Good, I texted back. Keep pulling the threads. In my office, I found a stack of letters. Women sharing their stories, offering support, asking how they could help. One caught my eye, from a former employee at Wallace's company. I kept quiet for years, she wrote. Watched him hurt others, but seeing you fight back, I'm ready to speak up. To help others fight too. A knock at my door revealed Maria, beaming. The East Wing construction is back on schedule. And guess what? 3 contractors offered free services after hearing our story. That's not all, Marin added, walking in. Remember those board members Wallace tried to bribe? They've resigned and been replaced by abuse survivors. The shelter's never been stronger. My phone lit up with another news alert. Corporate culture under scrutiny. Wallace case triggers national conversation. They're calling you a hero, Peyton said from the doorway. I shook my head. We're all heroes here. Every woman who speaks up, who helps others, who refuses to stay silent, that's heroism. That evening, I sat with Marin and Peyton in the shelter's kitchen, sharing pizza and truth. I was so scared, Peyton admitted, when he first started threatening me, but watching you stand up to him. You stood up too, I reminded her. Your testimony was crucial. We all did, Marin added. That's what he never understood. He thought he could isolate us, pick us off one by one. Instead, he united us. My phone buzzed again. A message from Jonah. I'm sorry for everything. The Foundation wants to make amends. Full funding restored, plus expansion grants for 5 new shelters. Look at this, Maria called from the doorway, holding up her tablet. Another news headline. Women's Shelters report surge in donations following Wallace verdict. It's like dominoes falling, Marin observed. One victory leading to another. But the work isn't done, I said quietly. There are more Wallaces out there, more women needing help. And we'll be ready, Peyton replied firmly. All of us, together. I walked through the shelter's halls one last time that night, past the rooms where women found safety, past the offices where battles were won, past the common areas where strength was shared. In my office, I looked at my mother's picture. We did it, Mum. We changed things, not just for us, but for everyone. A new text lit up my phone, from Cassandra. You're trending nationwide. Women everywhere are speaking up, fighting back. You started a movement. I thought of Wallace in his prison cell, of Caden and Rex turning on their conspirators, of every bully who thought they were untouchable. I built this place for women who had nowhere else to go, I texted back. Turns out I was one of them. And now we're building something bigger, something they can't ignore or silence or control. What's that? She replied. I looked around at the shelter, no longer just a building, but a beacon of hope and change. Justice, I wrote. Real, lasting justice. And we're just getting started.
The first sign something was wrong came when I found my bedroom door slightly ajar. I always close it fully, a habit from growing up with a sister who thought privacy was optional. The second sign was the faint scent of my mother's signature perfume lingering in the air. Chanel No. 5 mixed with desperation. My name is Taylor, and I just inherited nearly everything my grandfather owned, which, as it turns out, was a lot more than anyone expected. The will, reading earlier that day, had been a masterclass in barely concealed rage. I can still see my mother's perfectly manicured nails digging into the leather armrest, leaving little half-moon indentations as the lawyer read out the details. To my granddaughter Taylor, I leave the majority of my estate, including the main residence, summer properties, and investment portfolios. My sister Soleil's face had turned an interesting shade of purple. Dad just stared straight ahead, jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might shatter. But Mom, she was the real show. Her smile never wavered, even as her eyes turned to ice. Darling, we're so happy for you, she'd said afterward, pulling me into a hug that felt more like a python's embrace. Though we are a bit concerned about the responsibility. You've always been so sensitive. Now, standing in my childhood bedroom, I methodically checked my drawers. They'd been careful, but not careful enough. The stack of letters from Grandpa Harold was slightly out of order. My journal had been moved half an inch to the left. They were looking for something, probably evidence of the instability they'd been trying to pin on me since I was 15. I pulled out my phone and called Cruz, my lawyer and the only friend I truly trusted. "They've been in my room," I said when he picked up. "Already? Damn, they're moving fast. You sure? Unless my mother's expensive perfume suddenly grew legs and walked in here by itself?" "Yeah, I'm sure." "Remember what we discussed," Cruz said. "Document everything. Take photos. Don't confront them yet." "I know." I walked to my window, watching my sister's Mercedes pull into the driveway. "But something bigger is coming. I can feel it. Your grandfather warned us they might try something like this. That's why we prepared." He was right. Grandpa Harold hadn't just left me his money, he'd left me his wisdom too. "Watch them closely after I'm gone," he'd told me during our last private conversation. "Your mother especially, she'll try to take it all back. She always does." A soft knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. "Taylor? Sweetie?" Soleil's voice dripped with artificial concern. "Mom and Dad want to talk to you about setting up some financial advisors. You know, to help you manage everything." I took a deep breath, slipped my phone into my pocket, and opened the door. My sister stood there in her designer outfit, perfect makeup, and practiced smile. The family favorite, the stable one. "Sure," I said, matching her fake warmth. "Let me just freshen up first." "Of course." She touched my arm gently. "We're all here for you. You know that, right? We just want what's best for you." I watched her walk away, her heels clicking against the hardwood floors. In the distance, I could hear my parents' voices in the study, speaking in urgent whispers, plotting. They thought I was the weak one, the black sheep, the emotional basket case they could manipulate and control. They had no idea I'd been recording everything since the moment Grandpa Harold died, no idea that Cruz and I had already anticipated their every move. I pulled out my phone again and sent Cruz a quick text. "It's starting. Get everything ready." His response came immediately. "Already on it. Don't let them see you sweat." I looked at myself in the mirror, straightened my shoulders, and practiced my own version of Mom's perfect smile. They wanted to play games? Fine. But this time, I was writing the rules. Walking down the hallway toward the study, I could hear Mom's voice getting clearer. "We need to move quickly before she realizes." She stopped abruptly when I opened the door. 3 pairs of eyes turned to me, all wearing identical masks of concern. "Taylor, honey," Mom said, patting the seat next to her. "Come sit. We need to talk about your future." I sat down, noting how they had positioned themselves around me. Mom to my left, Dad blocking the door, Soleil perched on the armrest like a vulture. "Of course," I said sweetly. "I'm all ears." Let them think they had me cornered. Let them think I was still that scared little girl they could control. They were about to learn what Grandpa Harold had known all along. I wasn't just his heir, I was his revenge. I wasn't supposed to hear the phone call, but old houses have thin walls, and my sister never learned to speak quietly when she's angry. "Mom, she's not falling for it." Soleil's voice drifted through the vent connecting our rooms. "She just sits there with that stupid smile, acting all perfect and composed." I pressed my ear against the wall, phone recording in hand. After 3 days of their concerned family routine, I'd installed a small camera in the hallway and started recording every conversation I could catch. "Patience, darling." Mom's voice crackled through the speaker. "Dr. Wagner says we need documented instances of erratic behavior. Just keep pushing her buttons. You know how to get under her skin." What if she actually keeps it together? Then we create situations where she can't. I've already spoken to Roberto about increasing her medication dosage. A few extra pills in her evening tea should do the trick. My blood ran cold. They were planning to drug me. Again. Memories of my teenage years flooded back, feeling dizzy, confused, being told I was having episodes I couldn't remember. I texted Cruz. Need to meet. Now. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in his office downtown, playing back the recording. Jesus, Cruz muttered, running a hand through his hair. They're actually going to try it. Your grandfather was right. Who's this Dr. Wagner they mentioned? Cruz typed something into his computer. Give me a minute. Here we go. Elena Wagner. But Taylor, she's not a doctor. She's an actress, mostly small theater productions, a few local commercials. Haven't seen any work from her in the last year, though. I leaned forward to look at the screen. The headshot showed a woman in her 50s trying hard to look 40. They hired a fake psychiatrist? Looks like it. Want to guess who's paying her rent now? Cruz showed me some bank statements. Your father's been making monthly deposits to her account since last week. My phone buzzed. A text from Soleil. Where are you? Mom's worried sick. You can't just disappear like this. 3 more messages followed in quick succession. This is exactly what we're worried about. You're acting so unstable. Please come home before we have to call someone. They're building their paper trail, Cruz said, reading over my shoulder. Every text, every concerned phone call, it's all ammunition for their case. Then let's build our own. I stood up and started pacing. The cameras I installed caught Mom going through my room. We have the recording of them planning to drug me. What else do we need? We need them to reveal their whole plan, preferably on camera with witnesses. Cruz pulled out a legal pad. And I think I know how we can do it. He outlined his idea. It was bold, dangerous even, but it might just work. You'll need to play along, he warned. Let them think their plan is working. Can you do that? I thought about all the years of gaslighting, the manipulation, the way they'd made me doubt my own sanity. Oh, I can do better than that. I'll give them exactly what they want. The perfect victim. Back at home, I found Mom waiting in the kitchen. Where have you been? She rushed to hug me, her voice pitched high with artificial worry. We've been so concerned. Sorry, I mumbled, making my hands shake slightly as I reached for a glass of water. I just needed some air. Everything feels so overwhelming. Her eyes lit up at my apparent vulnerability. Oh, sweetie, that's exactly what we've been worried about. You know, we have this wonderful doctor friend who'd love to talk with you. Maybe. I let my voice quiver. Maybe you're right. I haven't been feeling quite myself. Of course we're right, darling. She pressed a cup of tea into my hands. Here, drink this. It'll help calm your nerves. I pretended to sip it, watching her watch me. When she turned to the sink, I poured it into the nearby plant. I think I'll go lie down, I said, making sure to stumble slightly as I stood. Good idea, sweetheart. We'll talk more when you're feeling better. In my room, I pulled out my phone and texted Cruz. They took the bait. Time for phase 2? His response came quickly. Officer Bennett is on board. How soon do you want to do this? I thought about the tea, about how easily they'd tried to drug me again, about all the years of making me think I was crazy. Tell Bennett to be ready. We're doing this tomorrow. I could hear Mom on the phone in her study, probably calling Dr. Wagner to set everything up. Let them think they were in control. Let them think they'd won. Tomorrow they'd learn what real instability looks like. The family dinner was Mom's idea. Just a quiet evening with our dear friend Elena, she'd said, smoothing her silk blouse. She's so looking forward to meeting you. I sat at our massive dining room table, watching the woman who called herself Dr. Wagner delicately cut into her salmon. She was good, I'll give her that. The wire-rimmed glasses, the measured movements, the way she casually dropped psychiatric terms into conversation. She'd clearly done her homework. Taylor, Elena said, dabbing her lips with a napkin, your mother tells me you've been feeling overwhelmed lately. That's perfectly natural after such a significant life change. Oh, yes, I said, letting my hand tremble as I reached for my water glass. Everything feels so intense. I knocked the glass over slightly, spilling some water. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's fine, sweetie. Mom jumped in, shooting Elena a meaningful look. These little accidents have been happening more frequently, haven't they? Soleil nodded eagerly. Just yesterday, she was talking to herself in the garden. I heard her saying the strangest things about cameras and revenge. I had been talking to Cruz on my phone's earpiece, but they didn't need to know that. Fascinating, Elena murmured, scribbling in her little notebook. And how long have you been experiencing these episodes? Episodes? I widened my eyes, channeling my inner drama student. Is that what these are? I thought I was just tired. Taylor has always been delicate, Dad chimed in, speaking for the first time. Ever since she was a teenager, we've tried so hard to help her. By drugging my tea? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Everyone froze. Elena recovered first. What makes you say that, Taylor? Oh, I don't know. I started giggling, high and nervous. Sometimes I taste something funny, and then everything gets fuzzy. Like last night. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. Taylor, sweetheart, you're confused. Nobody's drugging you. But I heard you and Soleil talking about my medication. Through the vent, you said to put extra pills. You see? Soleil interrupted, voice thick with fake concern. These paranoid delusions, she's getting worse. Elena leaned forward, all professional concern. Taylor, how would you feel about coming to my office tomorrow? We could talk more privately about these concerns. Your office? I smiled sweetly. You mean the community theater on 7th Street? The color drained from Elena's face. Mom's hand tightened around her wine glass. I'm not sure what you mean, Elena stammered. Oh, I saw you there yesterday. That monologue you were practicing. What was it? To be or not to be? Very moving, though I prefer your current performance. I gestured around the table. The concerned psychiatrist role really suits you. Taylor? Mom's voice cracked like a whip. That's enough! Is it? I pulled out my phone, because I have some interesting recordings I'd like to share, like the one where you and Soleil discuss having me declared mentally unfit, or the one where Dad arranges payments to our guest here. Dad stood up so quickly his chair fell backward. Give me that phone! Roberto, sit down, Mom hissed. Taylor's clearly having another episode. Elena, please tell me you're documenting this. Elena was already gathering her things, panic clear in her eyes. I should go, but the show's just getting started, I said, pressing a button on my phone. In fact, our audience is already here. On cue, Cruz walked in through the front door, followed by Officer Bennett and 2 other police officers. Mom's face went from angry red to ghostly white in seconds. What is this? She whispered. This, Cruz said, pulling out some papers, is a sting operation. Elena Wagner, you're under arrest for practicing medicine without a license and conspiracy to commit fraud. You can't prove anything, Soleil shrieked, but her voice shook. I stood up slowly, enjoying the moment. Actually, we can. Every conversation, every planning session, every attempt to drug me, it's all recorded. The cameras I installed caught everything. Cameras? Mom's voice was barely audible. Grandpa Harold taught me well, I said, watching the officers handcuff Elena. He always said the best defense is a good offense. Oh, and Mom? That tea you've been serving me? I had it tested. The lab results make for interesting reading. Dad lunged for me, but Officer Bennett caught him. Don't make this worse for yourself, sir. I walked over to my mother, who sat frozen in her chair. You know what the funny thing is? All these years you've been calling me unstable, paranoid, delusional. But I'm not the one who just got caught trying to frame their own daughter. Tears streaked her perfect makeup. We were only trying to protect you. No, I said softly. You were trying to protect yourselves. And now everyone's going to know exactly what kind of protection that was. As the officers led Elena away, I could hear Soleil sobbing in the background, but all I felt was a cold, clear sense of satisfaction. The game wasn't over yet, but I'd just won the first round. The old, leather-bound journal fell open in my lap, its pages yellow with age. Ingrid, my grandfather's housekeeper for 30 years, had pressed it into my hands after the police left. Your grandfather wanted you to have this, she'd said, her weathered hands trembling, but only after you'd proven yourself strong enough to face what's inside. Now, sitting in Grandpa Harold's study, I read his careful handwriting by lamplight. March 15th, 2008. Laurel took 2.3 mallards from the family trust today. When confronted, she blamed Taylor, 15 for forging signatures. The girl was drugged and confused when questioned. I know my daughter is lying, but I can't prove it without destroying the family. My hands shook as memories flooded back. That spring when everything went fuzzy. Mom insisting I'd done terrible things I couldn't remember, the special tea that made the world spin. My phone buzzed. Cruz calling. Taylor, you need to see this, he said without preamble. I've been digging through your grandfather's old financial records. There's a pattern of unauthorized withdrawals going back decades. I know. I'm reading about it now. I flipped through more pages. Grandpa knew. He knew everything. That's not all. Your mother had you committed for 3 days in 2008. The records were sealed because you were a minor, but I found them. The room tilted sideways. What? It gets worse. The doctor who signed the commitment papers, he lost his license 2 years later for taking bribes to commit difficult teenagers. A knock at the study door made me jump. Ingrid stood there, looking nervous. Miss Taylor, there's something else you should see. She led me to the basement, to a wall of old filing cabinets. Your grandfather kept everything, every receipt, every document. He knew someday you'd need proof. The cabinet drawer squealed as she pulled it open. Inside, perfectly organized, was a folder labeled Laurel Fraud Evidence. He wanted to stop her, Ingrid said softly, but she threatened to destroy you if he did, said she'd make sure you'd never be believed again. My hands trembled as I opened the folder, bank statements, forged signatures, photos of Mom meeting with shady lawyers, and medical records. So many medical records. They didn't just drug me that one time, did they? Ingrid's eyes filled with tears. It started when you were 13. Anytime you asked too many questions about the family money, your mother would say you were having an episode and put something in your food. And Grandpa just watched it happen? Anger surged through me. No, miss. He was gathering evidence, building a case. That's why he left you everything. He knew you'd be strong enough to finish what he started. My phone buzzed again, a text from Cruz. Found something big. Come to the office now. 20 minutes later, I stared at Cruz's computer screen in shock. Is this real? Very. He pointed to the offshore account numbers. Your mother didn't just steal from the family trust. She's been embezzling from your grandfather's charitable foundation for years. Millions diverted through shell companies. Can we prove it? Better? He grinned. Or we can get her arrested for it. International wire fraud is federal territory. I sat back, mind racing. She'll claim I'm making it up. Play the poor, unstable daughter card again. Not this time. Cruz pulled out a USB drive. Your grandfather left this in my care. It's security footage from his home office. Shows your mother accessing his computer, making transfers, and the best part? Shows her deliberately drugging your tea when you started asking questions. My hands clenched into fists. I want to destroy her. Taylor. Cruz's voice softened. Are you sure? This isn't just revenge anymore. This is prison time. You don't understand. She didn't just steal money. She stole my sanity, made me doubt everything about myself. Every memory, every feeling. My voice cracked. She made me think I was crazy. Okay. He nodded slowly. But we do this right. By the book. No mistakes she can use against you. I pulled out Grandpa's journal. We'll use everything. The journal, the footage, the financial records. Show everyone exactly who Laurel really is. It'll break her. Good. I stood up, suddenly energized. She broke me first. Now it's her turn. As I left Cruz's office, my phone lit up with a text from Soleil. Mom's having a breakdown. This is all your fault. How could you do this to your own family? I typed back, family doesn't drug family. Family doesn't steal and lie and manipulate. But don't worry, sis. Mom's breakdown, that's just the beginning. The truth was coming out, piece by devastating piece. And this time, no amount of specialty could make it go away. Run it by me one more time, Officer Bennett said, leaning over the conference room table. I want every detail perfect. Cruz spread out the surveillance photos. The intervention is scheduled for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Taylor's family thinks they're staging an emergency mental health evaluation. What they don't know is we've got cameras in every room and officers stationed outside. I pointed to the blueprint of my family's house. Mom will lead the show, she always does. She'll have Elena there to play doctor, probably with some forged medical documents. Soleil will cry on cue, Dad will act concerned, but let Mom do the talking. And you're sure they'll incriminate themselves? Bennett asked. Trust me, I said. Give my mother an audience and she'll monologue like a Bond villain, especially if she thinks she's winning. My phone buzzed. A text from Soleil. Family meeting in an hour. Don't be late. We're all so worried about you. Here we go, I muttered, showing them the message. Cruz grabbed my arm. Remember? Let them talk. The more they say, the more evidence we get. I nodded, but my hands were shaking. Not from fear, from anticipation. The family meeting was exactly what I expected. Mom paced the living room like a caged tiger, while Dad and Soleil flanked me on the couch. Darling, Mom said, her voice dripping with fake concern, we've all noticed how erratic you've been lately. The accusations, the paranoid behavior, the cameras, Soleil added helpfully. She thinks we're spying on her. I forced my voice to quiver, but I heard you. The recordings. See? Mom gestured dramatically. These delusions. Tomorrow we're having a dear friend come over, a wonderful doctor who can help you understand what's happening. The same doctor who was just arrested? I asked innocently. Mom's smile flickered for just a second. That unfortunate misunderstanding has been cleared up. Elena is a highly respected professional. Who's been paying her rent? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Dad stood up suddenly. That's enough. You're sick, Taylor. You need help. Like the help you gave me when I was 15. I watched Mom's face pale. The special tea? The mystery pills? You're confused, Mom said sharply. Roberto, she's getting hysterical. Get her medication. No, I jumped up, playing my part. No more pills. No more tea. Soleil, call Elena, Mom ordered. Tell her we need her tonight instead. This can't wait until tomorrow. I ran to my room, slamming the door, but not before catching Mom's satisfied smile. Everything was going according to their plan. And mine. An hour later, Elena arrived, looking nervous but determined. They'd probably paid her extra for the emergency visit. Taylor? She knocked on my door. It's Dr. Wagner. Your family asked me to speak with you. I opened the door, letting her see my tear-streaked face. They're trying to drug me again. Now, Taylor, she said soothingly, these paranoid thoughts. I have proof! I grabbed my phone. I recorded everything. Give me that phone! Dad lunged forward, but I dodged. Roberto, Mom snapped. Let Elena handle this. Taylor, sweetheart, you're having an episode. Let us help you. Like you helped me before? I played the recording, Mom's voice discussing medication dosages with Soleil. Mom's face turned to stone. That recording is clearly doctored. Elena, you're witnessing exactly what we discussed. The paranoid delusions, the accusations. The truth? I suggested. Enough! Mom's mask finally cracked. You ungrateful little... Do you know how hard we worked to keep you under control? How much money we spent on doctors who would cooperate? Mom, Soleil warned, but it was too late. Keep me under control? I repeated. Why? Because I asked questions? Because I knew about the missing money? Because you were going to ruin everything, Mom screamed. Just like you're trying to do now. Elena, do something. Elena stepped forward, pulling out a prescription pad. Perhaps a strong sedative. Actually, I said clearly, I think we have everything we need. The front door opened. Officer Bennett walked in, followed by his team and Cruz. What's this? Mom whispered. This, Cruz said, is what actual evidence looks like, not forged documents or fake diagnoses, but real, recorded confessions of long-term abuse and medical fraud. You can't, Mom started, but her voice failed. We can, Bennett said, and we will. Elena Wagner, you're under arrest. Again, Mrs. Jensen, you too. The FBI will be very interested in those cooperative doctors you mentioned. As the officers read them their rights, I caught Soleil's eye. She looked terrified. Don't worry, sis, I said softly. I'm sure there's a doctor somewhere who can help you deal with all this, one with an actual license. The game was over, and this time I'd won more than just my freedom. I'd won my truth. The police station's interrogation room was cold, but Mom's glare was colder. She sat across from me, her perfect makeup starting to crack after 6 hours in custody. You can still fix this, she said, her voice hoarse. Tell them you made it all up, that you were confused, emotional after your grandfather's death. I leaned forward, placing Grandpa Harold's journal on the table between us. Like I was Confused when I caught you stealing from his accounts? Or emotional when you drugged me to keep me quiet? I was protecting you. She slammed her hand on the table. You were out of control, asking dangerous questions. About the missing millions? The offshore accounts? Or about what really happened to Grandpa Harold's first will? Her face went white. What are you talking about? I pulled out a document from my folder, a copy of an earlier will dated just 2 months before his death. The one where he left everything to charity. The one that mysteriously disappeared after your last private meeting with him. Where did you get that? Ingrid kept copies of everything. I watched her perfectly manicured nails dig into her palms, including the security footage from that day. Want to explain why Grandpa signed a new will right after drinking the tea you brought him? The door opened. Cruz walked in with Officer Bennett and a sharp-suited woman I didn't recognize. Mrs. Jensen, the woman said. I'm Special Agent Torres with the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. We need to discuss some irregular transactions from your father's charitable foundation. Mom's lawyer, a nervous man with sweat stains under his arms, jumped in. My client has nothing to say without... Actually, I interrupted, I think she has a lot to say about forged signatures, drug tea, and convenient new wills. You ungrateful little... Mom started to rise, but Bennett's hand on her shoulder kept her seated. Mrs. Jensen, Torres said, we've frozen all associated accounts. We know about the shell companies, the offshore transfers, the bribes to medical professionals. The only question is, how deep do you want this hole to get? Mom's facade cracked completely. You have no idea what it was like, living under his control, watching him favor her over everyone else. She didn't deserve any of it. So, you decided to take it? I asked quietly. By any means necessary. He was going to give everything away to strangers, our family's money, our legacy. Your criminal enterprise? Torres corrected. We've traced systematic fraud going back 15 years. Your daughter wasn't asking dangerous questions. She was asking the right ones. The door opened again. Dad was led in, looking defeated. Soleil followed, mascara streaking her cheeks. Daddy, she whimpered, make this stop. But Dad just slumped in his chair. It's over, Laurel. They found the original documents. All of them. Roberto! Mom's voice cracked like a whip. Don't you dare! They know about the doctor in Switzerland, he continued. The one who helped us with Taylor's treatment records. He's already talking to save himself. I felt my breath catch. Switzerland? Cruz touched my shoulder. We found records of payments to a private clinic, dates matching your episodes as a teenager. The room started spinning. You sent me to Switzerland? When? You were sick. Mom's voice rose hysterically. We had to do something before you ruined everything. You mean before I exposed everything? I corrected, my voice steady despite the nausea rising in my throat. Torres laid out more documents. Mrs. Jensen, we have evidence of international wire fraud, medical abuse, conspiracy, and that's just the start. Your cooperation now could make a significant difference in sentencing. Sentencing? Soleil squeaked. Mom, what are they talking about? Federal prison, Bennett said flatly. Unless she starts talking. Mom looked around the room wildly, like a trapped animal. Her eyes landed on me, and for a moment I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. Taylor, she whispered, you can't do this to your own mother. I stood up slowly, gathering my documents. You're right, I can't do this to you. I paused at the door. But your own actions can and did. Wait, she called out. I'll tell you everything, about the money, the will, all of it. Just don't leave me here. I turned back one last time. Like you left me in Switzerland? As I walked out, I could hear her starting to talk, spilling secrets like poison. Cruz followed me into the hallway. You okay? He asked. No, I said honestly. But I will be. What happens now? Now? He smiled grimly. Now we watch justice do its job, and you start living your life without their shadows hanging over you. Behind us, Mom's voice rose and fell, confessing crimes I hadn't even known about. Each word was another brick in the prison she'd built for herself, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly, completely free. The headlines hit like a tsunami. Prominent family's dark secret exposed. Mother drug daughter to hide $1 million fraud. Fake doctor scheme leads to federal investigation. I sat in Cruz's office, watching the morning news coverage spiral. Blair Murray, a local journalist with a reputation for ruthlessness, was having a field day. Sources say the family matriarch orchestrated a decades-long campaign of medical abuse and financial fraud. Blair reported, standing outside the courthouse. The victim, her own daughter, was systematically drugged and gaslighted to prevent her from exposing the truth. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since the story broke. Old classmates, distant relatives, even former teachers, all claiming they'd always known something was wrong. Turn it off, Cruz suggested, closing his laptop. You don't need to watch this. Yes, I do. I picked up the morning paper. Look at this. Mom's social club has already expelled her. Dad's business partners are distancing themselves. Soleil's wedding got canceled. That bothers you? No. Yes. I don't know. I ran my hands through my hair. I wanted justice, not this circus. The door burst open. Speak of the devil, Soleil stormed in, looking like hell. Are you happy now? She screamed, throwing a magazine at me. Our family drama was splashed across the cover. You've destroyed everything. Your mother did that all by herself, Cruz said calmly, reaching for his phone. Don't bother calling security, she spat. I'm not leaving until she hears what she's done. My fiancé left me. My friends won't return my calls. Everything we built was built on lies, I finished, and stolen money, and my drug tea. You could have handled this privately. Instead, you had to make it this spectacle. I stood up slowly. Like the spectacle you made of my mental illness? The show you put on every time I got too close to the truth? That was different. We were protecting you. From what? The truth? That Mom was stealing millions? That you all knew about the drugs? That I spent time in a Swiss clinic I don't even remember? Soleil's face crumpled. You weren't supposed to find out about Switzerland. But I did, just like I found out about everything else. I picked up the magazine she'd thrown. The truth has a way of coming out, sis. Maybe that's what you should tell Mom during visiting hours. Mom's not eating, she whispered. She just sits there, staring at the wall. Dad's lawyer says he might take a plea deal. Smart man. How can you be so cold? They're our parents. No, I corrected her. They're criminals who happen to raise us. There's a difference. A knock at the door interrupted us. Officer Bennett entered, looking grim. Taylor, we need you to come down to the station. There's been a development. What kind of development? Your mother tried to hang herself in her cell this morning. The world tilted sideways. Soleil let out a choked sob. Is she... I couldn't finish the question. She's alive. Guards got to her in time, but she's asking for you. I looked at Cruz, who nodded slowly. I'll come with you. The drive to the detention center was silent. Soleil had insisted on coming, mascara running down her face. When we arrived, a doctor was waiting to brief us. She's stable, he said. But the incident triggered a psychological evaluation. We found concerning things in her blood work. What kind of things? I asked. The same medications she used on you. She's been self-medicating for years, possibly decades. Soleil grabbed my arm. What does that mean? It means, I said slowly, that Mom's been living in her own twisted reality for a very long time. They led us to the medical wing. Mom lay handcuffed to the bed, looking small and broken, nothing like the towering figure who'd terrorized my childhood. Taylor, she whispered when she saw me. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Save it, I said, but my voice shook. You're only sorry you got caught. No, I'm sorry I became my mother. She closed her eyes. She did the same things to me. The pills, the control, the secrets. I promised I'd never... But I did. I became her. Mrs. Jensen, a nurse interrupted. It's time for your medication. Mom flinched at the word. For a moment, I saw myself in that flinch, all the times I'd been medicated for my own good. The cycle stops here, I said firmly. With me? I turned to leave, but her voice stopped me. I loved you, she called out, in my own twisted way. I know, I replied, not looking back. That's what makes it worse. Outside, in the harsh sunlight, Soleil caught up to me. What do we do now? We tell the truth, I said, all of it. And then we learn how to live with it. The headlines would keep coming. The story would keep spreading. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what people would say, because the truth, however ugly, was finally free. The autumn wind scattered leaves across Grandpa Harold's grave as I placed fresh flowers beside his headstone. The morning sun cast long shadows through the cemetery's trees, and somewhere nearby, a bird called out in the crisp air. "I did it, Grandpa," I said softly. "Though maybe not quite how you planned." Mom had taken a plea deal, 15 years for fraud and conspiracy. Dad got 8. Soleil avoided jail time, but faced hefty fines and community service. The family name was in tatters, our reputation destroyed. My phone buzzed. Cruz calling. "You need to see this," he said without preamble. "Remember that offshore account we couldn't trace? It just activated." I sat up straighter. "What do you mean, activated?" "A transfer was initiated this morning to a new charitable foundation. The paperwork lists you as the executor." "I didn't set up any foundation." "No?" Cruz said. "Your grandfather did, before he died. The account was set to activate only after certain conditions were met." I touched the cold granite of the headstone. "What conditions?" "The complete exposure of the family's crimes. He knew, Taylor. He knew you'd figure it out eventually." A rustle of leaves made me turn. Ingrid stood there, holding a familiar leather briefcase, Grandpa's favorite. "I've been waiting for this day," she said, ending my call with Cruz. "Your grandfather left instructions, very specific ones." She opened the briefcase and pulled out an envelope. Inside was a letter, written in Grandpa's distinctive hand. "My dearest Taylor, if you're reading this, you've done what I never could. Expose the truth. The foundation is yours now. Use it to help others like you, victims of family abuse and gaslighting. Break the cycles that trap people in gilded cages. But remember, revenge consumes if you let it. I've watched you fight for justice. Now fight for healing. All my love, Harold." "There's more," Ingrid said, pulling out another document. "The foundation has a name, the Truth Tellers Fund." My hands shook as I read the mission statement: grants for abuse survivors, legal aid for victims of financial fraud, mental health support for those recovering from family trauma. "He planned all this?" Ingrid smiled sadly. "He knew the truth would destroy the family, but he hoped it might save others." A familiar click of heels on pavement made me turn. Soleil stood there, looking uncertain. "I thought I'd find you here," she said. "I've been doing a lot of thinking. About truth, about lies." She took a deep breath. "I want to help. With the foundation. If you'll let me." I studied her face. No makeup, no perfect mask. Just my sister, finally real. "Why?" "Because I was part of the problem. And maybe I can be part of the solution." She pulled out her phone. "I've been getting messages from other people like us, children of wealthy families trapped in cycles of abuse and control. They need help." "It won't be easy," I warned. "No more pretty lies. No more covering up ugly truths." "I know." She squared her shoulders. "But I'm ready to tell the truth. All of it." My phone buzzed again. Cruz sending documents about the foundation, about healing, about hope. "Okay," I said finally. "But we do this right. No shortcuts. No compromises." "No more tea," Soleil added with a weak smile. I touched Grandpa's headstone one last time. He'd given me more than money. He'd given me purpose. "Miss Taylor," Ingrid said gently, "there's one more thing." She pulled out a small key. "To your grandfather's private study. He said you'd know when it was time." I did know. It was time to stop looking back at the damage and start looking forward to the healing. "Coming?" I asked Soleil. She nodded, falling into step beside me. We walked through the autumn morning, leaving the graves and shadows behind. The truth had torn our family apart. But maybe, just maybe, it could help put other families back together. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Mom's prison psychiatrist. "She's asking to make amends. Real ones this time. No games, no lies. Your choice." I showed the message to Soleil. She squeezed my hand. "Whatever you decide," she said. "I'm here, for real this time." I looked at the message again, then at the key in my hand. Grandpa Harold had known this moment would come, when the truth wasn't just about exposing lies, but about choosing what to build from the ashes. "Tell her," I typed back, "that the truth is a good place to start." The morning sun broke through the clouds, warm on my face. Ahead lay a new path, not of revenge, but of restoration, and this time I wasn't walking it alone.
The first thing they don't tell you about chemotherapy is how cold the room is. I sat there, wrapped in 2 blankets, watching poison drip into my veins, while my sister Esme scrolled through her phone, occasionally glancing up to ask if I needed anything. My name is Sandra, and 6 weeks ago I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. The news hit like a freight train, but I refused to let it derail my life. My daughter Sadie needed me to be strong, and that's exactly what I plan to be. You should let me handle the bills while you focus on getting better, Esme said, not looking up from her screen. I can keep track of everything, make sure nothing falls through the cracks. I hesitated. Esme and responsibility had never been close friends, but she seemed different lately, more mature, more present. I don't know. Come on, sis, you're fighting cancer. The least I can do is help with the boring stuff. She reached over and squeezed my hand. Besides, what if something happens and you're too sick to deal with it? Sadie needs someone looking out for her future. The mention of Sadie made me pause. My 13-year-old was everything to me, and her college fund was my pride and joy. 12 years of careful saving, making sure she'd have opportunities I never had. Just the regular bills, I finally agreed. The mortgage, utilities, nothing else. Esme beamed. You won't regret this. I've really got my life together now. Dr. Wong came in to check my progress. How are we feeling today, Sandra? Like I could run a marathon, I joked weakly. She smiled, checking my charts. The fatigue is normal. Your numbers look good, though. Where's Devon today? Work meeting, I said, ignoring the slight sting. My husband had been increasingly absent lately, citing project deadlines. That evening, Devon came home late, carrying takeout. Sorry I missed the session. How'd it go? Fine. Esme was there. I watched his face carefully. She offered to help with the bills while I'm sick. Something flickered across his expression. Relief? That's thoughtful of her. Might be good to have the help. 3 weeks later, I woke up early, nauseous from the previous day's treatment. Unable to sleep, I decided to check our accounts online, something I hadn't done since giving Esme limited access. The screen loaded. I blinked, thinking the chemo was affecting my vision. The numbers couldn't be right. I refreshed the page. Our savings account, Sadie's college fund, was empty. My hands shaking, I called the bank. There must be some mistake, I said, my voice trembling. No mistake, ma'am. The transfers were authorized using your access codes. Multiple withdrawals over the past 2 weeks. I hung up and drove straight to Esme's apartment, still in my pajamas. She opened the door wearing designer clothes I'd never seen before. Where is it? I demanded, pushing past her. Sandra, calm down. You look terrible. Should you even be driving? The money, Esme. Sadie's college fund. Where is it? She sat down, her face crumpling into familiar tears. I'd seen this expression countless times growing up, whenever she needed to escape consequences. I was desperate, she whispered. My business opportunity. I needed startup capital, but I'll pay it all back, I swear. Double even. This investment is guaranteed. Guaranteed? My voice sounded strange, distant. You stole my daughter's future on a guarantee? Borrowed, she corrected, wiping her eyes. I borrowed it. You're my sister. We're family. And family helps each other, right? I stared at her, this woman I'd grown up with, shared secrets with, trusted despite everyone's warnings. How much? She wouldn't meet my eyes. All of it. The room spun, 12 years of savings gone in 2 weeks. While I lay in a hospital chair fighting for my life, my sister had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I'm calling the police, I said, pulling out my phone. Esme grabbed my arm. Wait, talk to Devon first. He understands. He knows this is for the best. I froze, her words hitting me like a physical blow. What do you mean Devon knows? She covered her mouth, realizing what she'd revealed. But it was too late. I'd seen the truth in her eyes. Sandra, please, she started, but I was already walking out the door. My sister and my husband. While cancer ravaged my body, they'd conspired to steal my daughter's future. As I drove home, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white, one thought crystallized in my mind. This betrayal would cost them everything. I just didn't know yet how I'd make them pay. I found Devon in his home office, typing away like it was any other morning, like he hadn't helped steal our daughter's future. Did you know? My voice was steady, calmer than I felt. He didn't turn around. About what? Don't. Just don't. Esme told me you knew about the money. His typing stopped. When he finally faced me, his expression wasn't guilty or apologetic. It was annoyed. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. Bigger than it needs to be? I gripped the doorframe to stay upright. That money was for Sadie's education, and we can always save more, he said, as if explaining something simple to a child. Esme needed it now. She has a real opportunity with this business venture. What business venture? Import-export. Her boyfriend Chaz has connections overseas. It's practically guaranteed returns. I laughed, a hollow sound that scared even me. You let my sister and her latest loser boyfriend steal our daughter's college fund for an import-export scheme? She's family, Sandra. He stood up, running his hands through his hair. You're being dramatic. You're emotional because of the treatments, but don't you dare blame this on the cancer. I stepped closer, forcing him to look at me. Did you help her set up the transfers? His silence was answer enough. I trusted you, I whispered. Both of you. Look, he sighed. What's done is done. You're strong. You'll bounce back. Esme needed this chance more than we need a safety net. The casual way he said it, like he had any right to make that decision, made something snap inside me. More than our daughter needs an education? We have years to rebuild the fund. Besides, he checked his phone, Esme's hosting a small dinner tonight to discuss the business plan. Once you see the potential... A dinner? I cut him off. She stole everything and she's throwing a dinner party. It's a celebration of new beginnings, he said. She wants to share her vision, show you it wasn't a mistake. I stared at him, this stranger wearing my husband's face. And you expect me to attend? It would mean a lot to her, to both of us. My phone buzzed, a text from Esme. Dinner at 7, wearing my new Gucci dress. Can't wait to share the amazing news. Fine, I said quietly. I'll be there. Devon looked relieved. You'll see. This is good for everyone. I left him to his delusions and drove to the bank. The teller's face was sympathetic as I requested all recent transaction records. Mrs. Morgan? She called as I turned to leave. There's something else you should know. A new business account was opened last week. By whom? She slid a paper across the counter. There it was in black and white. Future Ventures LLC. Joint account holders, Devon Morgan and Esme Morgan. I clutched the paper, my vision blurring. Not just theft, but premeditated betrayal. They'd planned this, created a company, while I was fighting for my life. My best friend Amber found me in the bank parking lot, still holding the paper. I'd called her in a daze, needing someone, anyone, who wasn't part of this nightmare. Oh, honey, she said, pulling me into a hug. What do you need? A lawyer, I replied, my voice hardening. And everything you know about banking fraud. I have a friend who specializes in exactly that. She pulled out her phone. Hugh Grant. He's discreet, ruthless, and owes me a favor. I need to be smart about this, I said, more to myself than her. They think I'm weak right now, vulnerable. Then let them think that. Amber's eyes gleamed. While you build your case. That evening, I walked into Esme's apartment wearing my best smile. The table was set with expensive china I'd never seen before. Devon was already there, along with Esme's boyfriend Chaz, a slick-looking man with 2 white teeth. "Sandra," Esme hugged me, reeking of expensive perfume. "I'm so glad you came. Wait until you hear about our plans." I hugged her back, noting the price tags she'd forgotten to remove from her new outfit. My money, Sadie's money, on full display. "I wouldn't miss it," I said, accepting a glass of champagne. "Tell me everything." As they launched into their grand vision of international commerce, I smiled and nodded, playing the supportive sister, the understanding wife. But inside, I was already at war. They thought cancer had made me weak. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Chemo makes you tired, but betrayal keeps you awake. I spent my sleepless nights documenting everything, every transfer, every text, every business meeting. My laptop became an archive of their deceit, growing larger by the day. Hugh's office was exactly what you'd expect from a high-powered lawyer, all leather and mahogany. He reviewed my evidence with sharp eyes while I tried not to fidget. "This is methodical work," he said, closing my laptop. "Most clients come in emotional. You came in prepared. I have a lot of time to think between treatments." He leaned forward. "The joint LLC account is particularly damning. It shows premeditation, conspiracy. Have you spoken with the bank's fraud department?" "Meeting them today?" I checked my watch. "In an hour, actually." "Good. I've already filed for emergency account freezes. We'll need proof of medical bills, proof the money was designated for your daughter's education." A knock interrupted us. Amber poked her head in. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was hell." She sat beside me, squeezing my hand. "Did you tell him about the car?" Hugh raised an eyebrow. "What car?" I pulled out my phone, showing him the registration document I'd found in Devon's email. "They bought a Mercedes last week, registered in Devon's name, but Esme drives it." "Using your daughter's college fund?" Hugh's pen scratched across his notepad. "Perfect. More evidence of personal gain through fraudulent means." The bank's fraud investigator, Lane, was younger than I expected, sharp-eyed and determined. She spread documents across her desk as I recounted everything. "Classic affinity fraud," she said, "using family ties to gain trust, then exploiting it. But they got sloppy. These transfers..." She pointed to a series of transactions. "They didn't even try to hide them." "They didn't think they needed to," I said quietly. "They assumed I was too sick to notice. Their arrogance works in our favor. We can trace every dollar." She pulled out more papers. "They've been spending lavishly. Designer clothes, luxury cars, expensive restaurants, all traceable, all documented." My phone buzzed. A text from Sadie. "Mom, when can we look at colleges? Jessica's already touring campuses." My heart clenched. Lane must have noticed my expression. "Your daughter doesn't know?" I shook my head. "She just knows we're adjusting the timeline. I can't tell her her own father." "We'll get it back," Lane assured me. "Every penny." That evening, I found Sadie at her desk, surrounded by college brochures. She looked up as I entered, her face bright with excitement. "MIT has this amazing engineering program," she said, pointing to a glossy page, "and their robotics lab is incredible." I sat on her bed, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Honey, about college." I know. We have to wait and see how your treatment goes." She turned back to the brochures. "But it doesn't hurt to look, right?" I watched her pore over the pages, planning her future while her father and aunt dismantled it piece by piece. My phone buzzed again. Esme sending pictures of her and Chaz at some upscale restaurant. "Having the most amazing dinner. Business is booming." I excused myself to the bathroom and threw up, though whether from the chemo or the rage, I couldn't tell. Later that night, I met Amber at our usual coffee shop. She slid a file across the table. "My friend at the dealership came through," she said. "Full documentation of the car purchase. Devon used your power of attorney to access the college fund directly." I flipped through the papers, stopping at a familiar signature. He forged my name. "Add it to the pile." Amber stirred her coffee. Hugh says we're almost ready. The court date is set for next month. They're planning something big before then, I said. Esme keeps hinting at some celebration dinner, something about expanding the business. More like running with what's left of the money. Amber's eyes narrowed. You think they're planning to skip town? I showed her Esme's latest social media posts, all about international travel and exciting new horizons. Not if I can help it. I pulled out my own file. I found their flight searches. Costa Rica. Apparently they think they're clever. They won't make it that far, Amber promised. Hugh's got the judge on standby for emergency orders. I looked down at my hands, steady, despite everything. I always thought cancer would be the hardest battle of my life. Cancer's just a disease, Amber said softly. This is personal. My phone lit up with another text from Esme. Big announcement dinner next week. Wear something fancy. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Then let's make it memorable. The invitation arrived on thick cream cardstock, gold lettering announcing a celebration of success at one of the city's most expensive restaurants. Esme's handwriting sprawled across the bottom. Can't wait to share our amazing news. Wear that blue dress you love. Gizuai. The blue dress she meant was hanging in my closet, unworn. I'd bought it before the diagnosis, before everything changed. Now it hung loose in places where chemo had eaten away at my body. You don't have to go, Amber said, watching me adjust the dress in the mirror. Yes, I do. I smoothed the fabric. They need to think everything's normal. My phone chimed with another of Esme's Instagram posts, her and Chaz posing outside Gucci, #blessed and entrepreneur life. The comments were full of congratulations from people who had no idea they were celebrating stolen money. Devin came home early that day, whistling as he changed for the dinner. You look nice, he said, like nothing was wrong, like he hadn't destroyed our family. Thanks. I watched him pick out a new tie, another purchase I hadn't known about. Esme's been posting a lot about Costa Rica lately. Has she? His hands fumbled slightly with the tie. Must be trending or something. Must be. My phone rang. Hugh. I stepped into the bathroom to answer. It's done, he said without preamble. Judge signed the orders. We can freeze everything the moment you give the word. The dinner's tomorrow night? Perfect timing. Lane has the documentation ready. Just say when. I ended the call and found Devin watching me. Everything okay? Fine, just checking on my test results. He nodded, already losing interest. Ready to go? We should pick up flowers for Esme. The restaurant was exactly as pretentious as I expected. Esme held court at a private table, Chaz at her side, both gleaming with the artificial shine of new money, my money. Sandra! She air-kissed my cheek. You came, and you wore the dress. Wouldn't miss it? I handed her the flowers. Congratulations on everything. More guests arrived, mostly Esme's new business friends, who looked as genuine as cubic zirconia. They fawned over her stories of entrepreneurial success while sipping $100 wines. It's all about seizing opportunities, Esme announced to the table, taking risks, following your dreams, and having support, Chaz added, squeezing her hand. Family that believes in you. I caught Devin nodding along, proud as if he'd done something noble. My phone buzzed, a text from Lane. Everything's in place, all accounts tracked, ready when you are. Esme clinked her glass, standing for a toast. I have amazing news. Thanks to our incredible success, Chaz and I are expanding internationally. We're opening an office in Costa Rica. The table erupted in applause. I clapped too, watching Devin's face. He wasn't surprised. Of course he wasn't. He'd helped plan this. We leave next month, Chaz announced. A new chapter in paradise. My phone buzzed again, Hugh this time. Judge confirmed. One word from you and their accounts freeze. All of them. I excused myself to the bathroom, finding Amber waiting there as planned. "They're running," I said, checking the stalls to ensure we were alone. "Costa Rica next month." "Not anymore." Amber's eyes were hard. "Hugh says the second those accounts freeze, their passports get flagged. They really think they'll get away with it. That's the beauty of it." Amber squeezed my shoulder. "Their arrogance makes them sloppy. Every post, every purchase, every transfer, it's all evidence." Back at the table, Esme was glowing, describing their beachfront office plans. Devin kept glancing at his phone, probably checking flight details. "A toast," Chaz called out, raising his glass. "To new beginnings." I raised my water glass, smiling as they all drank. My phone lit up with another Instagram notification, Esme posting a photo of us all, captioned, "Family is everything. Sir blessed calm new chapter, Costa Rica bound." "Sandra," Esme turned to me, eyes shining with false sincerity. "I know things have been tough with your treatment, but I hope you know everything I do for family." I thought of Sadie at home, still believing in her future, still trusting her father. I thought of all the nights I'd spent sick from chemo while they planned their escape with my daughter's money. "Of course," I said softly. "Family is everything." Tomorrow, they'd learn exactly what that meant, but tonight, I'd let them celebrate. Let them think they'd won. After all, the best revenge is served at room temperature, with a side of justice. Hugh's office buzzed with quiet intensity as Lane spread documents across the conference table. Each paper represented another betrayal, another piece of evidence against my sister and husband. 12 separate accounts, Lane said, pointing to a diagram. All linked, all funded with your money. They got creative with the transfers, I'll give them that. But not creative enough, Hugh added, signing court orders. The freeze hits at 7 p.m. tomorrow during their farewell dinner. Every account, every card, everything. My hands shook slightly as I signed the final papers. "And their passports?" "Flagged." Lane checked her tablet. "Border Control's been notified. The second they try to leave the country, they'll be detained." Amber arrived with coffee and more files. "You need to see this," she said, pulling up emails on her phone. "Devin's been talking to a divorce lawyer." My stomach dropped. "What?" "He's building a case," she continued, her voice tight with anger, "claiming your illness has made you mentally unstable. He's after custody of Sadie." The room spun. I gripped the table, willing myself not to be sick. "When?" "He has an appointment next week after their planned departure date." Amber's face softened. "He was going to leave you sick and alone, then take Sadie." Hugh's pen scratched sharply across paper. "This changes things. We need to move faster." He turned to Lane. "Can we push up the timeline?" "The accounts are ready," she confirmed. "We can freeze them tonight if needed." "No," I said, straightening up. "Let them have their dinner. Let them think they've won. I want to see their faces when it all falls apart." My phone chimed. Esme sending party details for tomorrow night. "Wearing my new Prada. Bring Sadie. She should be part of the celebration." "She wants Sadie there?" Amber's voice dripped with disgust. "Of course she does." I showed them Devin's responding text. "Perfect timing. Everything's ready." They were going to take her tomorrow night, Lane realized, right after the dinner. "Well," Hugh said, straightening his tie, "they're in for quite a surprise instead." I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. In the driveway, I found Sadie sitting on the porch steps. "Mom?" Her voice was small. "Is it true we can't afford college anymore?" My heart stopped. "Who told you that?" "I overheard Dad on the phone. He said something about funds being temporarily relocated." She looked up at me, eyes wide. "But it's coming back, right?" I sat beside her, pulling her close. "Listen to me. Your future is secure. I promise you that. No matter what happens tomorrow, remember that I will always protect you." "What's happening tomorrow?" "A dinner. Your aunt's celebrating her new business. The one Dad helped with?" She picked at her shoelaces. He seems really excited about Costa Rica. I froze. What about Costa Rica? He's been looking at schools there, international schools. She shrugged. I thought maybe we were moving. The pieces clicked into place. Not just stealing the money, not just planning divorce. They were going to take my daughter to another country. While I was sick, while I was vulnerable. My phone buzzed again, Devon. Picking up Sadie's passport from expedited processing. Everything set for tomorrow. I held Sadie tighter, my resolve hardening. How about you sleep at Aunt Amber's tonight? She's making those cookies you love. Really? On a school night? Really? I'll pick you up tomorrow before the dinner. After dropping her off, I met Lane at a coffee shop. She had more papers, more evidence of their plans. Private school applications, she said, sliding them across the table. Residence permits. They've been planning this for months. While I was in chemotherapy, I said, my voice hollow. While I was fighting for my life, they were planning to steal my daughters. But we caught them. Lane's eyes were fierce. We have everything. The money trail, the fraudulent transfers, the forged documents, and now attempted parental kidnapping. My phone lit up with messages from both of them. Esme, can't wait for tomorrow. Family means everything. Devon, make sure Sadie dresses up. It's a special night. I turned off my phone, suddenly calm. Tomorrow, they would learn what family really means. Tomorrow, they would understand exactly what happens when you try to steal a mother's child. They think cancer made me weak, I told Lane. They're about to learn it made me unstoppable. The restaurant glittered with false promises, just like my sister's smile. Esme stood at the entrance in her new Prada dress, greeting guests like a queen at court. Chaz hovered nearby, checking his phone every few minutes. Sandra, Esme hugged me tight. Where's Sadie? She's not feeling well, I lied smoothly. Staying with Amber tonight. Devon's face tightened. You didn't tell me that. Must have slipped my mind during chemo. I smiled sweetly. You know how forgetful I've been lately. The private dining room was decorated lavishly, champagne flowing, expensive centerpieces on every table. My daughter's future scattered across the room in crystal glasses and silk tablecloths. 7 minutes, Lane texted from her position at the bar. Hugh sat in a corner booth, pretending to work on his laptop. Esme clinked her glass, drawing everyone's attention. Thank you all for coming tonight. We have such exciting news to share. Chaz wrapped his arm around her waist. Thanks to our amazing success with future ventures, we're expanding internationally. Costa Rica, Esme beamed. We leave next week, and we couldn't have done it without the support of family. She raised her glass to Devon. Some people just understand the importance of seizing opportunities. 6 minutes. Devon stood up, joining their toast. To new beginnings and fresh starts. Speaking of fresh starts, Chaz announced, Esme and I have another surprise. He dropped to one knee, producing a ring that probably cost 3 months of Sadie's tuition. Will you marry me? The room erupted in applause as Esme squealed, yes. I checked my watch. 5 minutes. We'll have the wedding in Costa Rica, Esme gushed. On the beach. Everyone here is invited, of course. 4 minutes. Devon caught my eye across the table, his expression almost apologetic. Almost, but not quite. He had no idea his passport had already been flagged, that his carefully planned escape was about to implode. 3 minutes. Sandra, Esme called out, would you make a toast? As my sister, it would mean so much. 2 minutes. I stood slowly, raising my water glass. The room quieted, all eyes on me. Esme beamed, drunk on success and champagne. Devon checked his phone one last time. 1 minute. To my sister, I started, my voice clear. Who taught me that family means everything? Esme wiped away fake tears. Who showed me, while I was fighting cancer, just how far people will go when they think you're too weak to fight back? The smile froze on her face. To my husband, who planned to take my daughter to another country while I was too sick to stop him. Devon stood up sharply. Sandra, and to karma, I continued as Lane and Hugh approached from opposite sides of the room, which arrives exactly now. Right on cue, phones started buzzing around the table. Esme grabbed hers, face paling. Chaz stared at his screen in horror. Devon's credit card was declined as he tried to close out his tab. What's happening? Esme's voice shook. My accounts. They're all frozen. Funny thing about stealing from someone with a financial background, I said, pulling out a thick folder. We tend to keep receipts. Lane stepped forward, badge visible. Esme and Devon Morgan, I'm with the bank's fraud investigation unit. We need to discuss some concerning transactions. This is ridiculous. Esme stood up, swaying slightly. It was a loan. Tell them, Devon. But Devon was staring at Hugh, who was calmly laying out court documents. Theft, fraud, conspiracy, attempted parental kidnapping. Hugh listed off. Shall I continue? You can't prove anything, Chaz started, but stopped as I pulled out my phone, playing a recording of last week's dinner where they'd discussed their plans in detail. I've been documenting everything, I said quietly. Every transfer, every conversation, every plan to steal my daughter. Esme's mascara ran as she turned to Devon. Do something! The police are outside, Lane announced, along with additional federal agents given the international flight risk. Guests began slipping away as Esme crumpled into her chair, her new ring catching the light. Chaz was already edging toward the back exit. You were right about one thing, I told my sister as officers entered the room. Family is everything. That's why I'm making sure you pay for trying to steal mine. Devon reached for me. Sandra, please, we can explain. Save it for the judge. I stepped back as Lane began reading their rights. Oh, and Esme? That Prada dress you're wearing? I want it back. It was bought with my daughter's college fund. I walked out of the restaurant into the cool night air, leaving behind the sound of handcuffs clicking shut. My phone buzzed. A text from Amber. Sadie's safe. She's asking about MIT again. I smiled, finally feeling truly strong for the first time since my diagnosis. Cancer couldn't break me, and neither could they. The police station hummed with late-night activity as Lane led me through the interview process. Behind the two-way mirror, I could hear Esme wailing about family loyalty while Devon demanded his lawyer. We found the passports, Lane said, spreading photos across the table. Sadie's was hidden in Devon's office safe. Expedited processing, departure scheduled for tomorrow night. My hands shook as I picked up my daughter's passport. They really were going to take her. But they didn't. Lane squeezed my shoulder. We've frozen every account, including 3 we didn't know about before tonight. The total amount stolen. She slid over a document. I stared at the number. That's more than Sadie's college fund. They took everything they could access, savings, retirement, even your medical fund. A commotion outside drew our attention. Chaz was being led in handcuffs, his perfect white teeth gritted in fury. Found him at the airport, an officer reported, trying to board a flight to Panama with $50,000 in cash. My money? I asked Lane. She nodded. And Esme's new car is missing. We've put out an alert. Hugh entered, looking pleased, despite the late hour. Devon's lawyer just arrived. He's already talking plea deal. No deal, I said firmly. They plan to kidnap my daughter. Through the window, I watched Devon slump in his chair as his lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. Gone was the confident man who thought he could steal my life. In his place sat a desperate stranger. Sandra, he called out as I passed his room. Please, just listen. I paused at the door. You were going to take my daughter while I was sick with cancer. I was trying to protect her. He leaned forward, desperate. You're not thinking clearly. The treatments, the stress of having my husband and sister steal everything while planning to kidnap my child. I stepped closer. You're right. That has been stressful. We can fix this, he pleaded. I'll pay it all back. We can start over. Start over? I laughed coldly. You chose her. Now you get to share her consequences. In the next room, Esme had stopped crying. Her makeup streaked across her face. It wasn't supposed to be like this, she whimpered as I entered. How was it supposed to be? I sat across from her. You steal my daughter's future, run away to Costa Rica, live happily ever after with my money? I deserved a chance. She slammed her hands on the table. You always had everything, the stable job, the perfect family. It wasn't fair. Fair? I leaned forward. I have cancer, Esme. While I was fighting for my life, you and my husband plotted to steal everything I had left. Chaz said the business was guaranteed. Chaz just tried to flee the country without you. She crumpled again, reality finally hitting her. What's going to happen to me? You'll face charges, lots of them. I stood up. And every time you think about betraying someone else, you'll remember this moment. Dawn was breaking as I left the station. Hugh walked me to my car, reviewing next steps. The court date is set for next week, he said. With the evidence we have, plus their attempted flight, they're looking at serious time. And the money? We've recovered most of it. The rest... He smiled slightly. Let's just say Chaz's attempt to flee with cash makes our asset recovery much easier. My phone buzzed. Amber sending a photo of Sadie asleep surrounded by college brochures. Safe, protected, her future secured again. There's something else, Hugh added hesitantly. We found divorce papers in Devon's email. He was planning to file next week, citing your mental instability from cancer treatments as grounds for full custody. I absorbed this final betrayal with strange calm. Add it to the charges. Already done. He handed me a folder. These are your new custody papers. Given the circumstances, I don't think he'll contest them. The morning sun hit my face as I drove home, warming away the night's chill. In my rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of myself. Tired, worn from treatment, but undefeated. My phone rang, Dr. Wong calling about my latest results. Your numbers are improving, she said warmly. The treatment's working. I thought of Esme and Devon in their cells, of Chaz in handcuffs, of all their careful plans destroyed by their own greed. Yes, I replied, smiling for the first time in what felt like years. The treatment is working perfectly. When I got home, I found Sadie awake, making breakfast. Mom! She hugged me tight. Where were you? Is everything okay? I held her close, breathing in the scent of her shampoo. Everything's going to be fine now. How about we look at those college brochures together? Her face lit up. Really? You mean it? Really? I poured us both coffee. Let's talk about your future. The courthouse steps felt warmer under the autumn sun as I waited for Hugh to finish filing the final paperwork. My phone buzzed with news alerts. Local business couple sentenced in major fraud case, but I didn't need to read them. I'd watched it happen in person. Devon hadn't looked at me during the sentencing. Esme had sobbed, mascara running again, begging for leniency. The judge had been unmoved by their performances. 7 years, Hugh said, joining me on the steps. No chance of early release given the attempted kidnapping charges. And Chaz? 10 years for his role, plus additional charges for attempting to flee. He handed me a thick envelope. The last of the recovered funds, minus legal fees. Your daughter's college fund is fully restored. My phone chimed, Dr. Wong confirming my final treatment session. The cancer was in remission, retreating as surely as my ex-husband's confidence had in court. Mom! Sadie called, running up the steps with Amber. Did you see? I got the early acceptance letter. I hugged her tight, the MIT admission letter crumpling between us. Of course you did. You're brilliant. We should celebrate, Amber suggested. I know a great place for lunch. We ended up at the same restaurant where everything had fallen apart that night. It felt different in daylight, smaller, less imposing. The matron recognized me, his eyes widening slightly. "Your usual table is available," he said quickly. "Complimentary champagne?" "Water's fine," I replied, catching his nervous glance. The restaurant's reputation had taken a hit after the arrests made headlines. As we settled in, Sadie pulled out her phone. "Look what Aunt Esme posted from prison." I hadn't blocked her social media access. I wanted her to see the consequences of her actions. Her latest post was a blur of self-pity. "Family is complicated. Learning hard lessons. Chuck prison life, chakra reflection." "She still doesn't get it," Amber muttered. "No," I agreed. "She never will." Sadie put her phone away, focusing on the college brochure she'd brought. MIT has this amazing robotics program, and their financial aid office already confirmed my scholarship. I watched her plan her future, free from the shadows of betrayal she'd never fully known about. The waiter brought our food, and I realized I was actually hungry, the first time since diagnosis that food smelled appealing. "The treatment worked," I told them, picking up my fork. "Dr. Wong confirmed it this morning. Complete remission." Amber's eyes filled with tears. Sadie grabbed my hand. "Really? You're sure?" "Really." I squeezed her hand back. "I'm not going anywhere." "Except to help me move into my dorm," Sadie added quickly. "Except that." My phone buzzed. Lane sending updates. They'd finally found Esme's Mercedes, abandoned at the Canadian border. The last piece of evidence collected, the final loose end tied. "You know what's weird?" Sadie said, picking at her salad. "Dad hasn't tried to contact me since everything." "He's not allowed to," I reminded her gently. "The restraining order." "I know." She straightened her shoulders. "And I'm glad. What they tried to do, I wouldn't have forgiven them either." The sun streamed through the windows, catching the edge of my water glass. I remembered sitting here months ago, watching Esme celebrate stealing my daughter's future. Now she sat in a cell while Sadie planned for MIT. "Sometimes the best revenge is success," Amber said, raising her glass. "To new beginnings." "To karma," I added. "To MIT," Sadie chimed in. We clinked glasses, and I felt the last weight lift from my shoulders. The cancer was gone. The betrayers were gone. All that remained was possibility. Outside, autumn leaves scattered across the courthouse steps where justice had finally been served. My phone had stopped buzzing with drama and crisis, now filled instead with college preparation checklists and dormitory requirements. "Ready to go home?" I asked Sadie. She gathered her brochures, eyes bright with future plans. "Actually, can we stop by the bookstore? I want to get a head start on calculus." I laughed, a real laugh, full and free. "Of course we can." As we walked to the car, I caught my reflection in a store window. I looked different, stronger, not just from beating cancer, but from surviving betrayal, from protecting what mattered most. "Mom," Sadie called from ahead. "You coming?" I joined her, leaving the courthouse and its ghosts behind. They had tried to steal my daughter's future, thinking cancer made me weak. Instead, they learned what every mother knows. Nothing makes you stronger than fighting for your child. "Let's go get that calculus book," I said, stepping into the sunlight. "The future's waiting."
The check trembled in my hands as I stared at the numbers. $38,000. Every penny I'd saved over the past 5 years, earmarked for my final attempt at IVF, my last chance at becoming a mother. My name is Roslyn, and I was about to make the biggest mistake of my life. "Ha, honey, we wouldn't ask if it wasn't an emergency," Mom said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. She'd shown up at my apartment an hour ago with Dad in tow, both of them looking desperate. "The bank's giving us 3 days. 3 days before they take our home." I looked at Dad, slumped in my IKEA armchair, his face grey with what I thought was shame. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?
How much do you owe? It just happened so fast, he mumbled, not meeting my eyes. The payments kept piling up, and with the interest rates... 35,000, Mom cut in. Plus fees. We've tried everything, called everyone. You're our last hope, Roslyn. My stomach churned. The childhood home where I'd spent 25 years of my life, where I'd learned to ride a bike, had my first kiss, cried through 3 miscarriages. The thought of strangers living there made me sick. I have savings, I said slowly, but it's for... The baby thing? Mom's voice softened dangerously. Sweetheart, you're 37. Maybe it's time to accept that some things aren't meant to be. The familiar sting of her words made my eyes water. Regina, Dad warned, but she pressed on. I'm just being realistic. What's more important? A maybe baby or keeping your family home? Where will we live? Where will you come for holidays? I stood up, walking to my bedroom without a word. The lockbox was under my bed, containing everything I had. The inheritance from Grandma. Every bonus check. 5 years of overtime shifts at the hospital. My phone buzzed. A text from Deborah. Everything okay? You missed coffee. I ignored it, returning to the living room with the check already filled out. Mom's eyes lit up in a way that should have warned me. You're saving us, she whispered, pulling me into a perfumed embrace. My good, sweet girl. Dad stood awkwardly. We'll pay you back, Roz. Every cent. When? I asked, still holding the check. Soon, Mom said quickly. Very soon. We have some investments that just need time to mature. I nodded, numb. I need you to sign something. For my records. Mom's smile flickered. Oh, honey, we're family. We don't need... Please, I said firmly. It's a lot of money. I grabbed a notepad, writing out a simple IOU with the date and amount. They both signed, Mom's signature flowing and elaborate, Dad's a shaky scrawl. We'll go straight to the bank, Mom said, tucking both papers into her designer purse, the one I'd questioned last Christmas when she claimed they were struggling. You've saved our home, darling. You've saved us. After they left, I sat in silence for a long time. My phone kept buzzing. Deborah again. Called the clinic. They said you cancelled next week's appointment. What's going on? I finally replied. Had to help my parents. Emergency with the house. Her response was immediate. Oh, honey, no. Call me. I didn't. Instead, I walked to my spare room, the one I dreamed would be a nursery. The walls were still white, waiting for purpose. I'd bought a small stuffed giraffe months ago, my first purchase for the baby I hoped to have. It sat on the windowsill, watching me with blank button eyes. Family comes first, I whispered to the empty room. Right? My phone rang again. This time it was Mom. Darling, the bank needs it in certified funds. Could you call them and arrange a wire transfer instead? It'll be faster. Sure, I said, my voice hollow. I'll do it now. You're an angel, she gushed. We're taking you to dinner next week to celebrate somewhere fancy. After hanging up, I called my bank and arranged the transfer. With each number I typed, I felt my dream slipping away. But family was family. They'd raised me, supported me through the miscarriages, even if Mom said I was obsessing, given me a home when Camden left. I owed them this. The transfer confirmed with a cheerful ding. I deleted the fertility clinic from my contacts and unfollowed the IVF support groups on Facebook. Time to be realistic, like Mom said. That night, I dreamed of a little girl with my eyes, fading away like smoke. I woke up crying, but told myself it was for the best. I had no idea that in exactly 7 days, I'd discovered just how wrong I was. I was eating lunch at my desk when the Facebook notification popped up. Regina tagged you in a post. My sandwich stopped halfway to my mouth as I clicked the link. The photo loaded, and my world imploded. There they were, my parents, grinning on the deck of a luxury cruise ship. Mom in a flowing designer caftan, Dad in crisp linen, both holding champagne flutes against a backdrop of pristine ocean. The caption read, "Living our best life. Mediterranean cruise, first stop Monaco. Blessed-cruise life. Living the dream." Posted 3 hours ago, 6 days after they'd sat in my apartment crying about losing their house. "No," I whispered, dropping my sandwich. "No, no, no." My hands shaking, I scrolled through Mom's profile. More photos appeared. Them boarding the ship 4 days ago. A video of their gorgeous suite with private balcony. Mom getting a massage at the ship's spa. Dad at a wine tasting. The cost of their suite alone, clearly visible in one boasting photo, was $22,000. My IVF money. My baby money. They'd used it for a luxury vacation. "Roslyn?" Tyrell from the next cubicle leaned over. "You okay? You look like you're about to pass out." I couldn't speak, just turned my monitor so he could see. "Aren't those your parents? The ones who needed—" His voice trailed off as he read the dates. Oh shit. My phone was in my hand before I knew what I was doing. Mom's number rang 4 times before going to voicemail. I tried Dad. Straight to voicemail. A text popped up from Mom. "Can't talk now, darling. In the middle of a lovely excursion in Monte Carlo." I typed back with trembling fingers. "You told me you needed the money for the house." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Don't be dramatic, sweetheart. We did need it. We needed this break. Your father's been so stressed. The house is fine. We worked something out. You always overthink everything." The rage that swept through me was unlike anything I'd ever felt. I called again. This time she answered. "Roslyn, really, this isn't a good time. You lied to me." My voice cracked. "You sat in my apartment and cried about losing the house. You took my IVF money for a cruise." "Lower your voice," she hissed. "We deserve this happiness. Do you know how hard it's been watching you throw money away on this baby obsession? We did you a favor." "A favor?" I was screaming now. Tyrell touched my shoulder, but I shrugged him off. "You stole from me. That was my money. We're your parents," she said coldly. "Everything you have is because of us. Now, I need to go. We have dinner reservations at—" I hung up, opened my laptop. With shaking hands, I searched the county property records. No foreclosure notice, no bank proceedings, nothing. They'd planned this. They'd planned all of it. My phone buzzed. Deborah. "Why is your mom posting cruise photos? Wasn't that money for—" "They lied." I cut in, my voice dead. "About everything. The house was never in danger. They just wanted a vacation." Silence. Then, "Get your coat. Meet me at my office in 20 minutes. "What?" "I'm calling in sick to the firm. This is fraud, Roz. Straight up criminal fraud. We're going to need that IOU they signed. Any texts, emails, everything." "They're my parents," I whispered. "They're criminals who stole your future." Deborah snapped. "And I'm not letting them get away with it. 20 minutes. Bring everything." I looked at my computer screen. Mom had posted another photo. Her and Dad in designer clothes at a French restaurant. Plates of food that cost more than I made in a day. The caption, "Living like royalty. We deserve this. Blessed." Something cold and hard crystallized in my chest. "Tyrell," I said quietly, "can you tell management I'm taking the rest of the day? Family emergency." He squeezed my shoulder. "Take tomorrow, too. And Roz? Make them pay." I gathered my things, downloaded every photo, every message, screenshotted the property records showing no foreclosure threat. As I walked to my car, another text from Mom. "Don't be selfish, darling. Parents sacrifice everything for their children. It's time you gave something back." I stared at those words until they burned into my brain. Then I typed back, "You're right, Mom. Parents do sacrifice everything for their children. Remember that when you get home." I turned my phone off and drove to Deborah's office, my mind already spinning with possibilities. They thought they'd gotten away with it. They had no idea what was coming. "Holy shit," Deborah whispered, spreading the papers across her desk. "This goes way deeper than the cruise money." I'd spent the morning digging through old boxes in my storage unit, finding financial documents I'd forgotten existed. Credit card statements, loan applications, tax forms, each one a new betrayal. "Look at this," she said, holding up a credit card statement from 10 years ago. "They opened this card in your name when you were 27, used it to remodel their kitchen. I never knew about that card, because they forged your signature." Deborah grabbed a highlighter. "And here, they took out a personal loan using your information as a co-signer in 2019. Did you know about that?" My head spun. "No. That was during my second miscarriage. I was barely functioning." "They knew exactly when to do it." She started making piles. "Identity theft, fraud, financial abuse. Roz, this is criminal." My phone buzzed. A text from my sister Willow. "Mom says you're threatening to sue them. What's wrong with you?" I showed Deborah the message. She snorted. "Call her. Put it on speaker." Willow answered on the first ring. "Have you lost your mind?" "Did you know about the cruise?" I asked. Of course I knew. They deserved a vacation after everything they've done for us. Everything they've done? My laugh sounded hysterical. "Willow, they stole my IVF money. They lied about losing the house." "Oh, please," she scoffed. "Like that IVF was going to work anyway. You need to let that go." Deborah's eyes widened in outrage, but I pressed on. "What about your college fund? Remember how it mysteriously disappeared?" Silence. "They told you the market crashed," I continued, "but I found the withdrawal slips. They took it for their 20th anniversary trip to Hawaii. That's different," Willow stammered. "They needed—" "Check your credit report," I cut in. "Right now, while I'm on the phone." I heard keyboard clicking, more silence, then a sharp intake of breath. There must be some mistake. I never took out a boat loan." "No," I said quietly. "Mom and Dad did, using your information, just like they did to me." The line went dead. Deborah was already typing. "We need to move fast. They'll be back from their cruise in 3 days. I'm filing for an emergency injunction to freeze their assets." My phone buzzed again. An email this time, from a name I hadn't seen in 2 years. "Camden?" I breathed. "Your ex?" Deborah looked up. "The one who bailed during your IVF treatments?" I opened the email. "Roz, I saw your mum's cruise photos and remembered how you talked about saving for IVF. I'm so sorry. This isn't right. If you need someone to corroborate their history of financial manipulation, I have emails from when they tried to get me to invest in their timeshare scheme. Call me if you need them. Cam. Delete it, Deborah said firmly. He doesn't get to play hero now. She was right. I deleted the email, but something else caught my eye. A Facebook message from Dad's sister, my Aunt Sarah. Finally, someone's standing up to them. They pulled the same house scam on me last year. Said they needed $20,000 or they'd lose everything. I gave them my retirement money. 2 weeks later, they bought a new car. My hands started shaking. How many others? Let's find out. Deborah cracked her knuckles. Start calling relatives. I'll draft the legal notice. And Roz, we should look into their insurance claims too. People who commit fraud rarely stop at one type. I nodded, pulling up my contacts, but before I could start calling, another text came through. From Mom. Just had the most divine caviar tasting. Darling, when we get back, we simply must discuss your attitude. This vindictive behavior isn't attractive. No wonder you can't keep a man. Speaking of which, we used just a tiny bit more of the money than planned, but you'll understand when you see our photos. The cruise photographer is simply magnificent. Deborah read over my shoulder. Please tell me you're saving all of these. Every single one. Good. She handed me a legal pad. Start writing down everything you remember. Every lie, every manipulation, every guilt trip. We're not just going to get your money back. She smiled grimly. We're going to make sure everyone knows exactly who they are. I started writing, years of suppressed memories flooding back. The missed rent when they borrowed my paycheck. The maxed-out credit cards I didn't know existed. The college fund that vanished. They're not going to stop, I realized. Even after this cruise, they'll never stop. No, Deborah agreed. Not unless someone makes them. I gripped my pen tighter and kept writing. The time for being a good daughter was over. Now it was time for justice. The legal notice landed the day my parents returned from their cruise. I knew the exact moment they received it because my phone exploded. 17 missed calls, 28 text messages, 3 voicemails. You ungrateful little... Mom's first voicemail cut off mid-screech. Second voicemail. We raised you better than this, after everything we've done. Third voicemail. Dad, this time. Princess, please, we can talk about this. Your mother's having chest pains. They're going with the health card already, Deborah said when I played them for her. That's faster than I expected. My phone rang again. Mom. Answer it, Deborah instructed, hitting record on her desk device. Let her talk. I took a deep breath and pressed accept. Hello? How dare you? Mom's voice could have shattered glass. We're your parents. You can't sue your own parents. You stole from me. We borrowed money. That's what family does. You lied about the house being in foreclosure, I said, keeping my voice steady like Deborah had coached. You used my IVF money for a luxury cruise, because you were never going to use it anyway, Mom snapped. You think we don't know about your last 3 failed attempts? You're wasting your life on this baby obsession when you should be. So, you admit you knew exactly what the money was for? Silence. Then, don't you dare try your legal tricks on me, young lady. I'm your mother. A mother who committed fraud. We signed your little IOU, didn't we? If we needed a vacation more than you needed another disappointment, that's our business. Deborah's eyes lit up. She scribbled frantically. Keep her talking about the money. You spent $40,000 on a cruise, I said. The house was never in danger, was it? Of course it wasn't. We've lived here 30 years. Did you really think the bank would foreclose over a few late payments? Honestly, Roslyn, you're so naive. Deborah gave me a thumbs up. And the credit cards you opened in my name? I pressed. The loans? Oh, stop being dramatic. Every parent does that. How else are we supposed to maintain our lifestyle? Besides, your credit score recovered eventually. I felt sick. You know that's illegal, right? Please, Mom scoffed. We're family. The law doesn't apply to family. Now, I'm going to give you one chance to drop this ridiculous lawsuit before... A call beeped through. The cruise line's legal department. I have to go, I said. Don't you dare hang up on... I switched lines. Hello? Ms. Elliot, this is Marcus from Royal Ocean's legal team. We understand there's a situation with your parents' recent voyage. 2 hours later, I had copies of every receipt, every charge, every excursion they'd booked. Total damage, 42,147. They upgraded everything, Marcus explained. Specialty restaurants, premium drinks package, private tours. Said it was their last hurrah, whatever that means. After hanging up, I checked my email. 3 new messages. From Dad. Please call us. We can explain everything. From Willow. My credit score is ruined. What else haven't they told me? From the cruise line's fraud department. We're launching an internal investigation regarding possible insurance fraud related to your parents' claims of lost jewelry during their voyage. Bingo, Deborah said, reading over my shoulder. Want to bet that lost jewelry shows up on your mom's Facebook soon? My phone buzzed again. A text from Mom. If you don't drop this now, we're telling everyone about your mental breakdown after the miscarriage. How you almost got committed. Think about your reputation, darling. I showed Deborah. That's it, she said, grabbing her phone. We're not playing nice anymore. I'm calling in a favor at the DA's office, Financial Crimes Division. They're really going to do this, I whispered. They're going to try to destroy me to save themselves. Let them try. Deborah started dialing. We have evidence. They have threats and guilt trips. Game over. Another text from Mom. Final warning. Drop the lawsuit or everyone finds out what really happened with Camden. Your choice. I stared at the threat. Something cold and hard settling in my chest. They thought they could shame me into silence. Again. But I wasn't that scared little girl anymore. I typed back. Go ahead. Tell everyone. I'll be busy showing the DA your confession about the credit card fraud. Mom's response was immediate. You wouldn't dare. We're family. I looked at Deborah, who was already talking to someone at the DA's office, at the stack of evidence on her desk, at the cruise photos still flooding my Facebook feed. Watch me, I texted back and turned off my phone. The war had officially begun. Are you sure about this? Deborah asked, watching me type. Once you post it, there's no going back. I nodded, fingers hovering over the keyboard. After 3 days of threats and manipulation attempts, it was time. I'd spent hours crafting the Reddit post, making sure every detail was accurate, every claim backed by evidence. Title: My parents stole my IVF savings for a luxury cruise, then bragged about it on social media. I attached the screenshots, Mom's cruise photos, the fake foreclosure story, the recorded admission about never using it anyway, the credit card statements. Everything. Post it, I said, and clicked submit. Within an hour, it hit the front page. Holy shit, Tyrell said, staring at his phone during lunch break. You're trending. There's already thousands of comments. My inbox was flooding. People sharing similar stories, offering legal advice, some even wanting to donate to my IVF fund. Then came the message I'd been waiting for. Hi, I'm a reporter with the Daily Post. Would you be willing to discuss your story on record? Mom's first inkling something was wrong came from her bridge club. Regina, is that your cruise on Reddit? The one about the stolen IVF money? I knew because she called, screaming. Take it down! People are commenting on my Facebook. My friends are asking questions. Are they? I kept my voice calm. Maybe you can explain to them why you needed that emergency vacation so badly. You vindictive little... She choked. Your father can't sleep. Is that what you wanted? I wanted a baby. Oh, for God's sake, you're 37! If you haven't managed to keep a man by now... Check Reddit again. I cut in. I just uploaded the recording of you admitting to credit card fraud. She hung up. Minutes later, Willow called. Mom's hysterical. Dad's talking about moving to Florida. What did you do? Truth hurts, doesn't it? They're our parents, Roz. Check your credit report lately. Silence. Then, the boat loan wasn't the only thing, was it? No, it wasn't. More silence. I have to go. My credit monitoring app just sent an alert. The reporter called that afternoon. We met at a coffee shop where I laid out everything. The fraud, the manipulation, the years of financial abuse. And you have documentation for all of this? She asked. I handed her a folder. Every screenshot, every recording, every fraudulent account. Including the insurance claims? I smiled. Especially those. The story broke the next morning. Social media parents accused of systematic fraud splashed across local news sites. Mom's cruise photos featured prominently, now with very different captions. My phone rang. Camden. Don't answer it, Deborah warned. I did anyway. What? I saw the article, he said, and the Reddit post. Jesus, Roz, I had no idea how bad it was. Really? Because you knew enough to leave when things got tough? I was wrong, he said quietly. I should have stayed, helped you fight them. Yes, you should have. Maybe we could. Goodbye, Camden. I hung up as another email arrived. From the cruise line's fraud department. After reviewing your evidence, we're pressing charges regarding the false insurance claims. Your parents claimed $18,000 in lost jewelry that was later photographed being worn at dinner. I forwarded it to Deborah, who texted back, Perfect. DA's office wants to meet tomorrow. My Reddit inbox kept growing. Thousands of comments, hundreds of messages, people sharing their own stories of parental financial abuse. Then came Mom's final attempt at damage control. A Facebook post to address the vicious rumors. Yes, we took a cruise. Yes, we used money our daughter offered us. She's twisting a beautiful family moment into something ugly because she's bitter about her personal problems. Please respect our privacy during this difficult time. The comments were brutal. We all saw you admit to fraud on Reddit. What about the credit card theft? Return her IVF money. Worst parents ever. One by one, her friends began unfriending her. The bridge club cancelled her membership. Dad's golf buddies stopped returning calls. Their carefully curated social world was crumbling. Your mother's in bed with migraines. Dad texted. Are you happy now? I stared at his message, thinking of all the times I'd been in bed, crying over lost babies and stolen dreams, all the times they'd taken and taken and taken. No, I replied, but I'm free. Then I opened my email to find another message from the reporter. Follow-up story tomorrow. Found 3 more families they scammed with the same foreclosure story. Want to comment? I smiled and started typing. The truth was just getting started. The process server caught them during their weekly dinner party. I wasn't there, but their neighbour, Mrs. Peterson, recorded the whole thing on her phone and sent it to me. Regina and Michael. The server's voice was clear in the video. You've been served. Mom's face went from polite confusion to horror as she read the documents. Her wine glass slipped from her hand, shattering on their precious hardwood floors. What's happening? One of their dinner guests asked. Nothing. Mom tried to shove the papers into her pocket, but Dad was already reading his copy out loud. Civil suit, financial fraud, criminal charges pending. His voice cracked. Insurance fraud? The video ended with their guests awkwardly gathering their coats. It's beautiful, Deborah said, watching it for the third time. But that's not even the best part. Show her, Tyrell. Tyrell, who'd become our unofficial social media monitor, pulled up a document on his laptop. Your parents took out a second mortgage on the house 3 years ago. Never told anyone. What? They've been living on borrowed money for years, he explained. The cruise was just the tip of the iceberg. They're underwater on everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Willow. Did you know about the second mortgage? They used my name as a co-signer. I never signed anything. And there it is, Deborah said. The final nail. I had to see it for myself. I drove to my childhood home for the first time in months, parking across the street. The perfectly manicured lawn seemed smaller. The impressive facade felt like a movie set. All show, no substance. Mom spotted me through the window. She rushed out, still wearing her dinner party dress. You've ruined us, she shrieked. Are you happy? Everyone's cancelled our dinner invitations. The country club is reviewing our membership. Where's Dad? Hiding in his study, looking at retirement homes in Florida. We can't show our faces here anymore. How many people's money did you take? She straightened, trying to gather her dignity. We borrowed from people who could afford it. Like Aunt Sarah? Her retirement savings? She offered. After you told her you were losing the house? I stepped closer. The house you'd already mortgaged under Willow's name. Something flickered in her eyes. You don't understand, she whispered. We had to maintain appearances. Your father's golf membership, my charity committees. We couldn't let people know we were struggling. So you stole from your own children. We gave you everything. She was crying now, but I'd learned those tears were as fake as everything else. The best schools, the nicest clothes. On credit cards you opened in my name. You ungrateful little... She stopped, noticing Mrs. Peterson watching from next door. Come inside. We can discuss this privately. No. I looked up at my old bedroom window. I had my third miscarriage in that room. Remember? You told me to get over it and asked to borrow money for your spa weekend. That's not fair. I was trying to help you move on. By stealing my chance to try again? Dad appeared in the doorway, looking ancient. Princess, please. We can fix this. How? The money's gone. The cruise, the shopping, the fancy dinners. I gestured at Mom's designer dress. You spent it all. We'll pay you back, he stammered. Somehow. With what? The house you don't own? The retirement account you emptied? Mom's face turned ugly. You think you're so clever. Wait until people hear about your mental problems, your failed relationships, how you drove Camden away with your baby obsession. Go ahead, I said quietly. Tell them. Show everyone exactly who you are. My phone buzzed. The reporter again. Insurance fraud investigation expanding. Multiple claims over past decade. Comment? I showed Mom the message. All the colour drained from her face. You can't, she whispered. I already did. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Mom, those jewellery pieces you reported stolen on the cruise, the ones you're wearing right now, the insurance investigators would like them back. She clutched her necklace, the one she'd claimed was lost at sea. But they were gifts. From money you stole. I got in my car. The DA will be in touch. As I drove away, I watched in my rearview mirror as their perfect facade crumbled. Mom sank to her knees on the front lawn, not caring who saw. Dad stood in the doorway, lost and small. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Deborah. DA wants to meet tomorrow. They found something big. You ready? I thought of the little girl I'd been, always trying to please them, always believing their lies, always giving more. Ready. I texted back. It was time to take everything back. The small claims courtroom was packed. My Reddit post had gone viral enough that local news showed up, but the judge banned cameras. Mom and Dad sat on the opposite side, looking deflated in off-the-rack clothes, a far cry from their cruise photos. All rise, the bailiff called. Judge Martinez took one look at the file and sighed. Quite a story we have here. Mom's new lawyer, a tired-looking man with a crooked tie, stood up. Your Honor, this is a simple family dispute that's been blown out of proportion. $42,000 is not a simple dispute. The judge cut in. Neither is identity theft, insurance fraud, or filing false police reports. She looked at my parents. Would you like to explain why you claimed jewellery as stolen that you were photographed wearing 2 days later? Mom burst into tears. Your Honor, we've been humiliated enough. Our daughter has turned the whole community against us with her internet lies. Screenshots aren't lies, I said quietly. The judge held up the IOU. You admitted in writing this money was for preventing a foreclosure. Bank records show no foreclosure proceedings existed. Instead, you spent it on a luxury cruise. Correct? Dad stood up. Your Honor, we meant to pay it back. With what funds, sir? Your accounts are empty. You have 2 mortgages, one apparently obtained through identity theft, using your other daughter's information. The DA's office is very interested in that, by the way. Mom's lawyer tried again. We're prepared to offer a payment plan. They can't pay, Deborah interrupted. They've already filed for bankruptcy to avoid their other debts. That's why we're requesting a lien on their future income and assets. The judge nodded. Given the overwhelming evidence of fraud, I'm granting the plaintiff's request for full repayment, plus damages. Total judgment, $58,000. We don't have it! Mom shrieked. She's destroying our lives over a stupid cruise! No, the judge said sharply. You destroyed your lives through systematic fraud. This judgment will follow you until it's paid. Every tax return, every paycheck, every asset will be subject to garnishment. She turned to me. Ms. Elliott, the criminal proceedings will be handled separately. Do you wish to make a statement? I stood up, my hands shaking. They told me the money was for saving their home. I gave them everything I had. Money I'd saved for IVF, for a chance at having a child. They knew exactly what they were taking. They just didn't care. That's not true. Mom stood up. We were trying to help her. She's obsessed with having a baby. She needed an intervention. The judge's eyes narrowed. By stealing her money for a cruise? We deserved that cruise. After everything we've done for her. Mrs. Elliott, the judge cut in. I suggest you stop talking before you incriminate yourself further. This court finds in favor of the plaintiff. You have 30 days to appeal, though given the evidence I wouldn't bother. As we left the courtroom, Mom grabbed my arm. You're barren because you're bitter, she hissed. No child deserves you as a mother. I pulled away, her words hitting like physical blows, but before I could respond, another voice cut in. Let her go, Regina. Willow stood in the hallway, holding a stack of papers. Honey! Mom's face lit up. You came to support us. No. Willow's voice was ice. I came to give you these. She handed them the papers. My lawyer found 6 different accounts you opened in my name. I'm pressing charges too. Mom staggered back. You can't. We're your parents. Not anymore. As they watched their golden child walk away, something finally broke in them. Dad aged 10 years in 10 seconds. Mom's carefully maintained facade cracked completely. We did everything for you girls, she whispered. No, I said. You did everything for yourselves. Outside the courthouse, a small crowd had gathered. My Reddit post had resonated with too many people who'd experienced similar abuse. They held signs. Pay it back! And justice for stolen dreams. My phone buzzed. A message from a woman named Sarah. Your story inspired me to check my aging parents' accounts. Found out they've been stealing from my college fund for my kids. Thank you for being brave enough to fight back. Then another message, this one from an anonymous donor. I read your story. My wife and I struggled with IVF too. We'd like to help. Check your PayPal. I looked at the notification. $25,000 had been transferred to my account. Oh my God, I whispered. Deborah squeezed my shoulder. See, sometimes karma works in reverse. I stared at the amount, tears blurring my vision. It wasn't everything I'd lost, but it was hope. A new start. What now? Deborah asked. I watched my parents shuffle to their old car, broken but still not sorry, still not understanding what they'd done wrong. Now, I said, I build something better, something true. The future I deserved was waiting, and this time no one could steal it. The key clicked in my new apartment's lock. My apartment, my space, my rules. Last box, Tyrell announced, setting it down in the kitchen. Though I still think you should have kept the giraffe. New start, I said, but pulled the stuffed animal from my purse anyway. Okay, maybe just this one thing. My phone buzzed. A text from Willow. They're really gone. Moved to Florida this morning. Dad left his golf clubs behind. I set the giraffe on my windowsill and typed back. You okay? Getting there. Hey, got my first therapy appointment tomorrow. Thanks for the recommendation. Deborah arrived with takeout and a bottle of wine. Housewarming time. Also, you might want to check your email. The DA sent something interesting. I pulled up my inbox. The subject line read, Urgent. Insurance fraud investigation. Multiple counts. They found 7 different false claims, Deborah explained, pouring wine. Jewelry, electronics, even a fake flood. Your parents are looking at serious charges. Good. The word came out harder than I expected. My phone lit up. Camden. Still? Deborah rolled her eyes. It's been weeks. I declined the call and checked his voicemail. Roz, please. I know I messed up leaving during the IVF, but seeing how strong you've been, fighting your parents, I miss you. I miss us. Delete. You know what I don't miss, I said, grabbing a slice of pizza, feeling like I owe everyone everything. The donor money sat untouched in my account. After the court case went viral, more people had contributed. The total now stood at $41,000, almost exactly what my parents had stolen. Have you decided? Tyrell asked quietly. About the IVF? I touched my giraffe. I made an appointment. Next week. Just to talk options. Whatever you decide, Deborah said. It'll be your choice, no one else's. My laptop pinged. A new comment on my Reddit update. Your story helped me stand up to my financially abusive parents. First time in 40 years. Thank you. Then another. Just checked my credit report like you suggested. Found out my mom opened 3 cards in my name. Filing charges tomorrow. And another. Currently in court with my parents over stolen inheritance. Your posts gave me strength. The doorbell rang. A delivery man held out a package. Special delivery for Roslyn? Inside was a small box and a note. From one IVF warrior to another. Never give up. Sarah. The box contained a delicate silver necklace with a small star pendant. My phone buzzed again. Mom's number. Don't, Deborah warned. I answered on speaker. What? The DA called. Her voice was small, defeated. They're pressing charges, multiple felonies. Your father might go to jail. That's what happens when you commit fraud. We are your parents. You can stop this. Just tell them you don't want to press charges. Like you stopped when I begged you not to take my IVF money? Silence. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up and blocked the number. You okay? Tyrell asked. I looked around my new apartment. No fancy furniture, no designer labels, no lies. Just space to breathe, to heal, to grow. I have something for you, Deborah said, pulling out an envelope. Your sister found it in their house before they left. Inside was a photo. Me at 6 years old, holding a baby doll, beaming at the camera. Pure joy before they taught me that love came with price tags and conditions. You know what I see? Deborah pointed at little me. That maternal instinct was always there, and no one can steal that from you. My phone lit up with a text from the fertility clinic. Confirming your consultation next Tuesday at 2 p.m. We look forward to discussing your options. I picked up my giraffe, running my fingers over its soft ears. They took everything I had, I said quietly. My savings, my trust, my sense of family. And look what you built instead. Tyrell gestured around. Real friends, real support, real strength. A real future, Deborah added. I placed the giraffe in my new bedroom, right where I could see it from my bed. Maybe someday it would belong to my child. Maybe it wouldn't. But, for the first time, that decision felt like mine alone. My phone buzzed one last time. A final email from Dad. We're sorry. Not for what we did, but for getting caught. I guess that's the problem. We'll never understand what we did wrong, but you turned out right despite us, not because of us. Goodbye, Princess. I deleted it without responding. Some relationships aren't meant to be fixed. Some breaks are permanent. And sometimes that's exactly as it should be. I had built something better, not for them, for me. And that was everything.